Chapter 932. They're all good choices. The education conditions of the Saint Church are good, but the teaching methods of our night moon may be more suitable. Yuyo said. Yes, so I don't know how to arrange it. Night Sorrow said. He had been thinking about this problem for a long time. How about this? Let him go to the Saint Church. Night Moon will find a suitable person to guide him and let the Emperor of Xianxia go. Yuyo thought for a moment and said. Hearing Yuyo's words, Night Sorrow nodded. He knew that this was the best arrangement. Night Moon was a woman and she had the last patience. What are you two whispering about? Yuqing asked. Nothing. Yuyo shook his head. This matter was related to his ancestor Xuanhuan. Yuyo had not told anyone including his wife. However, he was going to tell Night Moon because the matter of teaching Xuanhuan had to be done by Night Moon. After dinner, Night Sorrow and Yuyo strolled and talked in the city in the sky. We have to tell the Emperor of Xianxia about this. Yuyo said. I know. Tomorrow Father will talk to the Emperor of Xianxia. I'll take the Emperor of Xianxia with me. Night Sorrow said. He felt that it was better for Xianxia to go there himself. That's fine. Otherwise they might not be willing to let the child out. Yuyo nodded. After resting for a night, Night Sorrow took Night Moon, who already knew the details, to Zhuan City and went to Xianxia's tea house. Xianxia's family was very familiar with Night Sorrow. The child called xuanhuan carried a pot of water to Night Sorrow's side. Night Sorrow asked him to sit on the chair beside him and got up to pour tea. Xianxia, I'm here today for something. Night Sorrow said directly. First, what's the matter? Xianxia nodded and sat opposite Night Sorrow and Night Moon. This is the Emperor of Night Moon's dynasty, Xianxia. He's an invincible venerable. I invited the Emperor of Xianxia to guide Xianhua's cultivation. Night Sorrow introduced Night Moon to Xianxia. Xianxia greets the Emperor of Xianxia. Xianxia stood up and cupped his fists to Night Moon. Xianxia nodded and looked at the child next to Yishang. There were even tears in her eyes because her ancestors' past had been too tragic. Can I say no? Xianxia said with a smile. He knew that Yishang had already arranged everything. He just needed to inform him. I really can't do that. I'll make some arrangements for you in Dongxian City. If you like being a tea house owner, you can continue to be one with your wife. Xuanhuan and the Divine Moon Emperor will go to the Sacred Hall to cultivate and will return home often. He will have a great future, Yishang said. Xianxia nodded. I believe you. You can arrange it. Xianxia knew Night Sorrow well. In addition, Night Sorrow often came over in the past few years. He knew that Night Sorrow was really good to the child. Then Night Sorrow went to Dongxian City and bought a tea house near the Saint Temple. Then he teleported to Zhuan City again and brought Xianxia and his wife, as well as Night Moon and the child, to the new tea house. The tea here is warm. It seems that you just bought it. Xianxia looked at the teapot on the table and said, In the future, I won't pay for the tea when I come here. Things have been arranged so I won't care. If you need anything, go to the Saint Temple and say that you want to see me. Someone will inform me. Night Sorrow said. Night Moon said goodbye to Xianxia and his wife, then took the child and left with Night Sorrow. So this is the commander of the two worlds. He looks like an ordinary person, Xianxia's wife said. Just like an ordinary person. Don't provoke his reverse scale. Countless experts from the Profound Mysteries realm and the Nether realm have died at his hands. When you see his ruthless side, you won't say that he's like an ordinary person, Xianxia said. After taking Night Moon and the child to the Saint Temple and making arrangements, Night Sorrow returned to the city in the sky. After saying goodbye to his parents and wife, Night Sorrow continued to sail the boat across the lake. His realm had already reached the threshold of returning to one's origin. As long as it stabilized, he would be able to touch the threshold of the Saint King realm. This advancement was the most time-consuming for Night Sorrow. In the past, the unity of heaven and man when he entered the Exalt realm and the energy of the laws when he entered the Saint realm hadn't stopped him, but it had consumed a few years of his time this time. Although it had taken some time, Night Sorrow was still very satisfied. This was because countless people had been stuck at this bottleneck. For 10,000 years, not a single Saint King had appeared, which showed how difficult it was. If one could reach the realm of returning to one's origin, then they would be there. If one could not reach it, then they would be stuck forever. Long Xianxing, Tianming Saint, Xianwenxiu and Shangluo were examples. Even 10,000 years ago, before the Nine Regions world was destroyed, there were many saints, but only 3 Saint Kings had appeared. The Clear Sky Saint King had reincarnated several times and had cultivation experience. After relaxing in the lake for more than half a month, Night Sorrow returned to the 10th floor of the Spacetime Treasure Pagoda. After cultivating for 2 days, Night Sorrow decided to break through to the Saint King realm. He did not tell anyone, mainly because he did not want anyone to worry. Night Sorrow circulated the energy in his body, first stabilizing his emotions and true chi. After stabilizing for half a day, Night Sorrow began to inject the true chi in his dantian into the dan bead, bit by bit. Fortunately, it was gaseous true chi. No matter how condensed it was still gaseous and very gentle. Night Sorrow instilled it bit by bit and time passed by. He was very careful because this was too important and there was no room for carelessness. His 2 soul avatars had closed their spiritual consciousness, for fear of being affected and affecting the breakthrough of his main body. The avatar's cultivation would always improve with the main body, which meant that the avatar's cultivation could not be higher than the main body, and the realm was the same. Night Sorrow's avatar in the heaven-sealing Great Hall was full of flesh and blood essence, but it was still an avatar. Only when the main body did not exist, that was to say, when the main body died, it could act as the main body. When the main body existed, it was a subsidiary, even if it merged with the heaven-sealing Great Hall. This was the rule of the heavenly Tao. The avatar could not comprehend the realm, but it could study battle skills for the main body and study the shortcomings of battle skills. As the true chi in Night Sorrow's dantian decreased, Night Sorrow's dan bead also changed. It was as if it could not bear the true chi and spiderweb-like cracks appeared. At other times, cracks appeared on the dan bead, which was a sign of the destruction of one's cultivation, but this was not the case for Night Sorrow. This was an inevitable phenomenon during a breakthrough. If one's realm was not enough, it would be useless to inject true chi into the dan bead, and the dan bead would not break out of its cocoon and condense into a dan nascent soul. When all the true chi in Night Sorrow's dantian entered the dan bead naturally cracked, like a lotus blooming. As Night Sorrow's dan bead cracked, a baby appeared in his dantian. The baby's face was exactly the same as Night Sorrow's, but it was much smaller. It was the dan nascent soul unique to the Saint King realm. At the same time that Night Sorrow's dan nascent soul was formed, a large number of tribulation clouds appeared in the sky above the city in the sky. The tribulation clouds were much larger than Night Sorrow's previous thunder tribulations, and they shrouded the entire city in the sky. This made Taishu Yen and Jun Xuanji, who had returned to the city in the sky after half a year, very shocked. Long Xianxia and other peak saints who were meditating in the city in the sky also woke up from their meditation, not understanding what had happened. Speaking. Chapter 933. At this time, Night Sorrow's 3 fiancés and Xueshi were all looking at the sky. The tribulation clouds had come too suddenly and too violently. The rolling tribulation clouds had already covered the entire sky city and even the lake beside it. Senior Long Xianxia, what's going on? Taishu Yen looked at the tribulation clouds in the sky and asked. If I'm not wrong, it's attracted by the commander. Long Xianxia flashed to the edge of the cliff and said while looking at the spacetime pagoda beside the lake. How could it be attracted by the commander? Could it be? Jun Xuanji's face changed at this point. Yes, the Saint's thunder tribulation is not so terrifying and the area it covers is not so big. Xian Wenxiu nodded at Jun Xuanji. He naturally knew what Jun Xuanji was thinking. At this time, the cultivators of Sky City had all reached the edge of the cliff. At this time, Night Sorrow had also been reminded by Shao Kong that the tribulation clouds had arrived. His body flashed out of the spacetime pagoda. Night Sorrow waved his left sleeve and flew away with the shrunken spacetime pagoda. He could not destroy this place. Sky City was his home. The Saint King realm is indeed true. The commander is going against the heavens. Shang Luo said. After Night Sorrow appeared, the peak saints could naturally see his cultivation. Night Sorrow's speed had reached the extreme. His body flashed and he was several miles away. As Night Sorrow moved, the tribulation clouds in the sky also moved. The people of Sky City also followed behind. Everyone was worried about Night Sorrow's safety and did not want to miss such a scene. After flying for 100 miles, Night Sorrow stopped in an open area. Then he stretched out his right hand and held the reincarnation spear in his hand. He then smiled and nodded at Sikong Chuyu and the others, waiting for the arrival of the tribulation clouds. With a loud explosion, the tribulation clouds parted and a purple-black lightning struck down at Night Sorrow. At this time, Night Sorrow's space energy crescent slash appeared behind him, directly cutting the area in front of the lightning tribulation. He wanted to use space turbulence to block the descent of the lightning tribulation. The power of the lightning was terrifying, much stronger than that of a saint's thunder tribulation. However, Night Sorrow's cultivation level had also increased. The crescent moon slash, which carried the law of space, directly cut a wide crack in space. The power of the lightning that passed through the spatial rift was reduced by a third. Following that, Night Sorrow unleashed a second spatial tear, followed by rule suppression. The first lightning tribulation disappeared when it reached Night Sorrow's head. Then came the second lightning tribulation. Night Sorrow used the same method. If he could save energy, he would naturally think of ways to save energy. He had just advanced and his true chi was not stable, so he was not suitable for a hard battle. When the third lightning tribulation descended, Night Sorrow used the myriad Tao Tome's power of desolation. As he retreated, he continuously attacked with his spear, destroying the lightning with over 20 spears. However, Night Sorrow also tasted the power of the Saint King Thunder tribulation. The myriad Tao Tome's energy could not isolate it, and his hands were numb from the bombardment. Shaking his shoulders, Night Sorrow warmed up his hands. He did not even activate his protective chi cover, yet he withstood 3 lightning tribulations. This is really heaven-defying. My saint's thunder tribulation almost killed him. Tai Shu Yan muttered to herself. Tai Shu Yan's words caused many saints to feel the same way. The lightning tribulation was indeed fatal. Even if one withstood it, they would be covered in injuries. At this time, the fourth lightning tribulation had already descended, and its power was much stronger than the previous 3. However, Night Sorrow did not mind. He had several types of energy in his body, so withstanding the lightning tribulation should not be a problem. With the myriad Tao Tome's energy protecting him, Night Sorrow continued to fly out of the spear and face the lightning attacks. He fought with the lightning until it disappeared. Night Sorrow also gasped for breath. The lightning was too strong, and it had directly consumed half of the myriad Tao Tome's energy. Looking up at the sky, Night Sorrow shook his right arm to relieve the numbness. At this time, the fifth lightning tribulation struck again. Night Sorrow first released a spatial crack, then flew up and faced the lightning with his spear. The myriad Tao Tome's energy, which had the effect of time acceleration, was constantly annihilating the lightning energy. When the myriad Tao Tome's energy in Night Sorrow's body was almost depleted, the fifth lightning tribulation also dissipated. At this time, Night Sorrow also controlled his true chi and began to quickly circulate it, because the lightning tribulation had not yet dissipated. These few lightning tribulations can easily kill a saint, Long Xianxia said. At this time, the sixth lightning tribulation struck again. Night Sorrow waved his left hand and threw the spacetime pagoda toward the sixth lightning tribulation. The spacetime pagoda was extremely powerful at this time. It was fixed in the air and withstood the lightning strikes. The lightning tribulation was withstood by the spacetime pagoda until it dissipated. As the commander's cultivation increases, the spacetime pagoda's power is also getting stronger, Heavenly Underworld Saint muttered. After the sixth lightning tribulation dissipated, the lightning tribulation clouds in the sky were still rolling. Look at the text, edition P above chapter. As the lightning tribulation clouds rolled, muffled sounds of thunder could be heard continuously. The seventh lightning tribulation was still brewing. Why is it not over yet? Yang Lei was a little anxious. Although Night Sorrow had withstood the first few lightning tribulations easily, as long as the lightning tribulation clouds did not dissipate, she was incomparably worried. The lightning tribulation is an odd number. Usually, there will be 3 lightning tribulations and then there will be 5 or 7 lightning tribulations. There are no records of it in the ancient books, but it is normal for it to appear on the commander, Long Xianxia said. Following an explosion, a lightning tribulation as thick as a bucket appeared. However, the lightning tribulation clouds also dissipated. This meant that this was the last lightning tribulation. If he withstood it, he would have taken a step forward. If not, he would not be annihilated. Seeing that it was the last lightning tribulation, Night Sorrow kept the spacetime pagoda and stabbed the reincarnation spear in his right hand into the ground, waiting for the lightning tribulation to arrive. The purple-black lightning tribulation directly fell on Night Sorrow's body and began to destroy Night Sorrow's body. However, Night Sorrow's body at this time, his flesh, bones and internal organs were all made up of energy. When they were destroyed, the energy would recover. The powerful lightning tribulation once again annihilated the impurities in Night Sorrow's almost perfect body, helping him to strengthen his body once again. Without Night Sorrow's resistance, the lightning tribulation and Night Sorrow lasted for a quarter of an hour before dissipating. After Night Sorrow took a robe and put it on, he looked up to the sky and roared. The lightning tribulation had passed, and he had officially become a Saint King cultivator. Long Xianxia took the lead, and everyone clapped their hands to celebrate Night Sorrow and the 9 regions world. Because after 10,000 years, the 9 regions world had once again produced a Saint King. Holding the wine jar and drinking 2 mouthfuls of wine, Knight Sorrow began to meditate and cultivate, stabilizing his newly advanced cultivation. The Netherworld realm and the 9 Dark King will not be able to cause any more waves. They are no longer a threat to the 9 regions world. Long Xianxia said. The 9 Dark King was waiting for the commander to be stuck at a bottleneck, while she has room for improvement. Now, the commander is also at the same level, but there is a huge gap in their combat power. She will always be suppressed. Xuanhuan nodded. He was very envious of Knight Sorrow. He had entered the Saint King realm at such a young age, while he had cultivated for thousands of years. Inform everyone that this is a joyous occasion. Both worlds should celebrate. Long Xianxia said. Chapter 934. After the lightning tribulation passed, the multicolored light arrived. Within the multicolored light, there was a golden light that made people respect it. Whether it was the multicolored light that could increase his strength or the power of virtue, they were all rewards for passing the lightning tribulation. Knight Sorrow accepted them all and continued to cultivate. No one left. They were all cultivators and they all had patience. Naturally, they would wait for Knight Sorrow. Knight Sorrow cultivated for 4 days. During these 4 days, Knight Sorrow's cultivation base stabilized slightly. He also sealed the multicolored light and the light of virtue in his body. In truth, the only thing that could disappear was the multicolored light that could help increase his cultivation base. After the light of virtue entered Knight Sorrow's body, it directly merged with the light of virtue outside his spirit sea. It stayed very stable in Knight Sorrow's body. Standing up, Knight Sorrow stretched his neck and waist. Only then did he walk over to Long Xianxia and the others. Congratulations, Commander. Long Xianxia and the others cupped their fists to Knight Sorrow. Thank you, seniors, for guarding this place for me. Knight Sorrow also cupped his fists in return. After 10,000 years, a sage king has appeared in our 9 regions world once more. Furthermore, he's the ruler of the 9 regions world. We'll have some confidence in dealing with the 10,000-year calamity, said Long Xianxia. It really wasn't easy. Heavenly Underworld Saint was also full of smiles. Knight Sorrow nodded to his parents and 3 fiancés who were worried about him. At the start, he didn't say anything because he was afraid that they would be worried. Fortunately, everything went smoothly. After returning to Sky City, Yi Wuyo arranged for people to hold a banquet. Such a big matter naturally had to be celebrated with wine. 3 days later, the 9 regions world and the profound mysteries world learned that Knight Sorrow had become a sage king. Knight Sorrow didn't want to make a big deal out of it, but everyone thought that it was a good thing to inspire people and announce it to the world. The birth of a holy king was already a legend. In the past 10,000 years, no holy king had been born. One could only imagine what kind of concept a holy king was. The main reason was because Knight Sorrow was still young. If not for the acceleration of the space-time pagoda, Knight Sorrow would only be in his 30s. Even with the acceleration of the space-time pagoda, he would only be in his 40s. This was a very tender age in the world of cultivation. After resting with his family for a few days, Knight Sorrow went into retreat to consolidate his cultivation. Having just broken through to the Saint King realm, Knight Sorrow's cultivation was still quite unstable. Forever and ever a free #look. All this while, I thought that if I want to return to my original state, I would have to be able to calm down and stabilize myself. But in the end I still took the wrong path. Long Xianxia, who was drinking tea together with Xuanhuan, said. The commander has lived the life of an ordinary person for 7 years and has reached the state of returning to his original state. We should also give it a try. Let's walk around and see the world. Maybe we can gain something from it. Xuanhuan said. Actually, the best way is to go to the Saint Hall to accompany those children. Are you guys going? Long Xianxia looked at Xuanhuan, Heavenly Underworld Saint, and Xiangluo. In the end, the 4 peak saints decided to move. Cultivating in seclusion wasn't enough. They had to find the right path. Knight Sorrow went to cultivate. Those who were approved by Knight Sorrow also entered the space-time pagoda to cultivate. Knight Sorrow cultivated in the space-time pagoda for 7 days in the real world before coming out. After cultivating in the space-time pagoda for 2 months, his cultivation was already very stable. Furthermore, he had just broken through, so it wasn't suitable for him to raise his cultivation too quickly. As for the 9 Dark King, Knight Sorrow wasn't worried at all. As long as the 9 Dark King hadn't entered the intermediate Saint King realm, he could fight and even kill him. The 9 Dark King had only entered the Saint King realm for 7 years. It would be difficult for him to even advance 1 level because the Saint King realm required too much energy. 7 years was nothing. Night Sorrow walked around the 9 regions world again. When he arrived at the Night Moon City, Night Sorrow thought for a moment and bought some good wine and tea before going to Bayou City. The last time he saw his grandfather's family, it was when they went to Sky City. It wasn't appropriate for him to not visit them even once. When he arrived at Bayou City City Lord Mansion, Night Sorrow was warmly welcomed. However, Night Sorrow once again experienced the Yu family's style. His grandfather and uncle were 2 clowns. Fortunately, his grandmother was there. Otherwise, Night Sorrow would have fainted. Then Night Sorrow went to the Holy Hall. When he arrived at the Holy Hall, Night Sorrow was stunned. He didn't know what was going on. This was because the 4 peak saints of the 2 worlds each had a reclining chair. They were all basking in the sun at the edge of the Holy Hall's martial arts practice field. Night Sorrow was very happy about this situation. With a few people here, the level of guidance for the children would be higher and they would avoid taking many detours. After staying in the Holy Hall for 2 days, Night Sorrow went to Medicine Valley again. At this time, the Medicine Valley was completely different from more than 10 years ago. The major sects couldn't shake its position as the #1 sect in the Eastern Shen domain. The Medicine Valley had enough resources and a few people had entered the Venerable Realm. Yan Beibei, Duanlei Gongxian, and Yi Xiling had all entered the Venerable Realm. Apart from Night Sorrow, the Medicine Valley already had 7 Venerables. In addition, after entering the Venerable Realm, the Medicine Valley had Dragon Spirit Pills, so the Venerable Realm's cultivation would increase very quickly. Jianghu, Hua Yunping, and the Great Elder had all entered the mid-level Venerable Realm. Jianghu had even reached the peak level 5 Venerable Realm. After leaving some Spirit Stones and Dragon Spirit Pills for the Medicine Valley, Night Sorrow left the Medicine Valley and went to the Supreme River Space. Then he was teleported to the spatial passage of the Nether Realm. After passing through the 1000 Derivation Killing Formation, Night Sorrow entered the Nether Realm. After checking that the 1000 Derivation Illusionary Formation and the 1000 Derivation Killing Formation were fine, Night Sorrow continued to fly forward. This time, Night Sorrow flew along the spatial barrier of the Nether Realm. His goal was to find Spirit Stones. Because in the past 7 years the Spacetime Pagoda had consumed a lot of energy. He had already used half of the top-grade Spirit Stones that he had filled. Night Sorrow flew along the spatial barrier of the Nether Realm. When he saw Spirit Stones, he directly dug them out without holding back. The Spirit Stones that were close to the spatial barrier did not affect the spatial world. Even if they did, Night Sorrow would dig them out without hesitation. Night Sorrow used close to 3 months to dig out all the Spirit Stones that were close to the spatial barrier of the Nether Realm. He had dug out more than 5,000 top-grade Spirit Stones. This number was astronomical because top-grade Spirit Stones were too rare in the market. As for the top-grade Spirit Stones, Night Sorrow had put them in a few storage rings and did not count them. When Night Sorrow's original body was digging out Spirit Stones, his doppelganger was still monitoring the entrance of the Nether Abyss. As long as the 9 Dark King appeared, Night Sorrow's original body would go over. However, Night Sorrow felt that if the 9 Dark King did not have the strength to protect himself, he would not come out easily. People who had cultivated for countless years had amazing endurance. After that, Night Sorrow returned to the Supreme River Space and directly teleported to the bottom of Supreme Sky City. Night Sorrow checked the stability of the array. Supreme Sky City and the Heaven-Sealing Great Hall were the core of the 9 Domains world. Nothing could happen to them. In addition, 7 years had passed, but Night Sorrow did not bring anyone into the Heaven-Sealing Great Hall to get a title. This was because the repaired regions of the 9 Domains world were stabilizing. The 9 Domains origin energy was fusing and the laws were becoming complete. The 9 Domains origin energy could not be consumed. Speak. Chapter 935. Night Sorrow did not mention anything about the title, so no one asked. If it was suitable, Night Sorrow would say it. If Night Sorrow did not say it, it was not suitable. It still needs some time before the Heaven-Sealing Hall can open naturally without any consumption. However, it still needs time to perfect the laws. The 9 regions' origin energy communicated with Night Sorrow. Can you estimate how long the massacre will last? How much time can you give us? Night Sorrow asked. Less than 100 years, the 9 regions' origin energy said to Night Sorrow. How much can the laws of the 9 regions world be perfected in 100 years? Night Sorrow asked the question he was most concerned about. It's hard to say. It's a conservative estimate. If you double the time acceleration, you'll need around 1 top-grade Spirit Stone per day in the outside world. That's equivalent to 100 high-grade Spirit Stones. If you cultivate for a long time, will you be able to endure it? Shao Kong asked Night Sorrow. I'll endure it first. If I can't endure it, then we'll talk about it. I really need time, Night Sorrow said. Then Night Sorrow took out the high-grade spirit stones he had stored in the Nether Realm. There were close to 20,000 high-grade spirit stones. So many? Shao Kahn looked at the high-grade spirit stones on the ground and said in surprise. I dug them out in the Nether Realm. You can use them first. If it's not enough, I'll add more top-grade spirit stones. Night Sorrow did not care about the consumption of spirit stones. The 9 regions' origin energy said that it would take 100 years, but cultivators needed a long time to consolidate their cultivation. In fact, Night Sorrow only had a portion of the time to cultivate. 10 times the time acceleration was not enough for Night Sorrow, so he had to speed it up. Shao Kahn did everything according to Night Sorrow's plan. After sitting down cross-legged in the space-time pagoda, Night Sorrow thought about the advancement of the Myriad Tao scripture. Cultivating the Myriad Tao scripture was a body-tempering cultivation. There was no such thing as a true energy core or a core soul. To enter the Saint King realm, he needed to evolve his divine core into a divine soul. After 7 years of cultivation, Night Sorrow's soul power had become very strong. He was now fully capable of taking this step. After cultivating for a month, he felt that the time was right. Not wanting to disturb the Night Sorrow, he left the space-time pagoda and the city in the sky. He entered the wilderness outside the city in the sky and set up 1,000 derivation illusory array before entering seclusion to break through. With the experience of true chi breakthrough, Night Sorrow's breakthrough this time was very easy. The following lightning tribulation did not bring him any danger because he had Saint King level true chi, so he could use his true chi cultivation to resist the lightning tribulation. After stabilizing his cultivation base for 2 days, Night Sorrow returned to Sky City. Next, he entered the space-time pagoda to begin cultivating. No one knew that Night Sorrow had made another breakthrough. Now everyone was nervously cultivating. Night Sorrow cultivated for 10 years. More than half a year had passed in the real world. His cultivation base had risen to the late 1-star Saint King realm. However, he had used up all his high-grade spirit stones. Night Sorrow came out of seclusion. First, he wanted to relax and ease his mind. Second, he wanted to spend some time with his parents and wife. Night Sorrow also chased everyone out of the space-time pagoda. He did not want to see any instability in his cultivation base. Everything in the 9 regions world was developing normally. Night Sorrow tried to use the spatial crack to break through space. He found that the difficulty had increased. In other words, the spatial barrier was increasing. After resting for a while and spending some time with his family, Night Sorrow decided to consolidate his cultivation base. He thought of a way to consolidate his cultivation base. That was to break through the spatial barrier and rush out of the 9 regions world. He would use the high-intensity spatial turbulence to temper his cultivation base. This was also a hint that the 9 regions' origin energy had given him. Night Sorrow wanted to consolidate his cultivation base. So did everyone else. The city in the sky became lively. Everyone chatted and drank tea together. Wu Lingfei also returned from the East Snow Mountain. She had broken through and become a 7-star saint. She was already a high-level saint. After leaving the city in the sky, Night Sorrow went to Haotian City. He entered the bottom of Haotian Mountain and broke through the spatial barrier of the 9 regions world. Then he entered the spatial turbulence outside the 9 regions world. At this time, Night Sorrow had a true understanding of the spatial turbulence. When one tore through space in the 9 regions world, one would enter the spatial turbulence inside the 9 regions world. The spatial turbulence was average. However, the spatial turbulence outside the 9 regions world was terrifying. It could be said that it was a spatial turbulence storm that could crush everything. It was a storm that fused together with all the elemental laws. It could annihilate everything. Night Sorrow was only a few dozen feet away from the 9 regions world to hone his cultivation base. If he went further, he would not be cultivating. He would be courting death. When his vital chi and the energy of the Myriad Tao Tome were exhausted, Night Sorrow would return to the 9 regions world. Then he would enter the space-time pagoda to accelerate time to recover his cultivation base. Then he would enter the spatial turbulence again to hone his cultivation base. Night Sorrow's cultivation method was the most time-saving. In other words, he did not waste much time on recovery. What he wasted was entering the spatial turbulence to hone his cultivation base. After cultivating day and night, when he was tired, Night Sorrow would drink tea in the space-time pagoda and sleep. Then he would enter the spatial turbulence again to hone his cultivation base. This was a kind of persistence. This was a kind of tenacity. It was also a kind of persistence. At the beginning, Night Sorrow felt that it was okay to suffer a little now. He could protect his family and the people around him. He could give stability to the 9 regions world. The suffering was worth it. After cultivating for nearly half a year, his cultivation base had stabilized. He had even improved a little. When he reached the peak of the 1-star Saint King realm, Night Sorrow returned to the city in the sky. This made Long Xianxia and Xuanhuan, who had agreed to go fishing in the lake of the city in the sky, very shocked. Chapter 936. Commander, it's only been a year and a half since you broke through to the Saint King realm. You're already at the peak of 1-star Saint King realm. Don't be too impatient. Xuanhuan looked at Night Sorrow and said, Time is tight. It's certain that the great massacre of the profound heaven world will happen within 100 years. At that time there will be Saint Kings descending. If I'm an ordinary cultivator, I can live in seclusion. But I'm the commander. Night Sorrow said. Long Xianxia and Xuanhuan looked at each other and sighed. They felt ashamed because the older generation couldn't shoulder the burden. All the pressure fell on Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow, according to your comprehension, Xuanhuan and I have a deeper understanding of returning to one's origin. If we have enough time, we will also have a chance to enter the Saint King realm. At that time, even if we can't fight against the leaders, we will still be a force to be reckoned with. Long Xianxia looked at Night Sorrow and said, Seniors, try to comprehend your realms first. If you break through, then enter the spacetime pagoda to cultivate. Although spirit stones are scarce, I will think of a way. Night Sorrow said. If we can really enter the Saint King realm, we will need time. But we will need spirit stones. We will think of a way. Long Xianxia said. Night Sorrow nodded. The lack of spirit stones was indeed a big problem. Although Night Sorrow's resources were still very abundant, he would need to consume a large amount of resources in the next 100 years. The spacetime pagoda's effect was strong, but the consumption was also huge. Night Sorrow rested for 2 days and placed the spacetime pagoda beside the lake. He then entered the spacetime pagoda to cultivate. As for other people entering the spacetime pagoda, Shao Kong had the ability to distinguish who could enter. The days passed peacefully. After cultivating for half a year in the spacetime pagoda, Night Sorrow entered the 2-star Saint King realm in less than half a month in the real world. It was the same for the myriad Dao Tome. He used the life spirit liquid to cultivate. At this time he no longer considered the problem of saving resources. Yishang cultivated steadily. 20 years had passed in the spacetime treasure pagoda, which was more than a year in the real world. Yishang chased Xuexi, who had become a 9-star saint, out of the spacetime treasure pagoda so that she could consolidate her cultivation. 9-star saints needed to stabilize their cultivation base and work hard to raise their cultivation base. Xuexi's cultivation had increased by more than half a minor realm, but even though Yishang had cultivated twice as long as Xuexi, his cultivation had only increased by half a minor realm, mainly because the Saint King realm required too much cultivation. However, Night Sorrow did not intend to continue charging forward. After sending everyone out of the spacetime pagoda to consolidate their cultivation, Night Sorrow returned to Clear Sky City to consolidate his cultivation. For convenience's sake, Night Sorrow had set up a teleportation formation at the edge of the realm's sea. It was a private formation protected by the 1000 derivation illusory formation, and only Night Sorrow could use it. Yishang's cultivation base was stabilized in the turbulent flow of space and recovered in the pagoda of time and space. In this state, Yishang's cultivation base increased as he stabilized. Yi Wuyo and Yu Qing were talking in their house in Sky City. Little F said, Wuyo, our son is like this now. It's too heartbreaking. He doesn't have a child. Yu Qing said what was on her mind. Our son is working hard. Let's not talk about things that will upset him. Let nature take its course, Yi Wuyo said. While Yi Wuyo and Qing Ji were chatting, Xikong Chuyu, Yang Lei and Qing Ji, who had come out to relax, came to the two's residence to pay their respects. Night Sorrow only knows how to cultivate every day. It's been hard on you. He doesn't spend time with you. Yu Qing apologized on behalf of her son. Mother, it's not like that. When we cultivate in the spacetime pagoda, Night Sorrow often comes to drink tea with us, always said. Is that so? That's not bad. You guys should work hard too. Our Yi family needs to have more children, Yu Qing said. Maybe it's because Night Sorrow's body is too strong. His future children are very talented. That's why it's not so easy, always said with a red face. I thought that he would have more children with 3 wives. Now it seems that it's all just a matter of time. Yu Qing sighed. What are you mumbling about? Son, the 3 of them are all high-level venerables with laws. They have long lifespans. It's just a matter of time. Yi Wuyo glanced at his wife. Yu Qing nodded and didn't say anything else. Afterward, Aoi and the others went to Dongshan City to bring Xianxiao back. Xianxiao was already a big girl, and her cultivation base had reached the peak of the 4th rank. Her talent was high, and with her abundant resources, her cultivation base naturally rose quickly. Where's my brother? Don't tell me he's still cultivating? Xianxiao looked around and didn't see Night Sorrow after returning to her parents' residence. Your brother has a lot of responsibilities. There's nothing he can do about it. How has he been in the Sacred Hall recently? Asked Wuyo. The teachers organized trials for us. I always had the best results. I even went to Medicine Valley's Pill Cauldron Cliff. I also climbed the highest. Xianxiao waved her hand. Do it steadily. Don't be too competitive, reminded Wuyo. I will. Those companions don't have it easy. We're all very close. It's just that Ning Yun who needs to be taught a lesson, said Xianxiao. Didn't your brother say that if he wanted to take a disciple, it had to be his kid? Not bad, said Yu Qing. Not bad? What do you mean by that? He's always complaining that I don't bring them to Sky City. I'm so annoyed, said Xianxiao. What's wrong with that? You can bring them here. Yu Qing scolded her daughter. All right then. My brother hasn't been going to the Sacred Hall recently. My companions all miss him, said Xianxiao. When we see him again we'll bring this up. However, your brother is very concerned about time. Time is very important to him, said Xikongqiu. After cultivating in the chaotic streams of space for half a year and stabilizing his cultivation base, he reached the late-stage 2nd Star Saint realm. Only then did Night Sorrow return to the city in the sky and place the spacetime pagoda by the lake once more. Anyone who wished to enter could enter. When Xikongqiu and the others saw Night Sorrow, they suggested going out for a walk. Let's go to the eastern Xian region. I'll go see the children of the Sacred Hall and pay my respects to Master, said Night Sorrow. Seeing Night Sorrow arrive, the children of the Sacred Hall all cheered. In truth, they couldn't really be considered children. They were all teenagers. Night Sorrow waved his hand and led the children of the Sacred Hall to the restaurants in Dongshan City. This was the happiest moment for the children of the Sacred Hall. It was also the happiest moment for the commoners of Dongshan City. Being able to see their commander and the happy children was a kind of satisfaction and happiness. Just as Night Sorrow was about to go to the Medicine Valley, his expression changed. That was because his clone outside the Netherworld abyss had discovered the 9 Underworld King's figure. Chapter 937. Wait for me in the Sacred Hall. Night Sorrow said to Xikongqiu, Yanglei and Aoi. He directly went to the teleportation formation and started the teleportation. What's going on? Yin asked with a smile. She was following beside Night Sorrow and Xikongqiu. Something might have happened. But don't worry. Right now there's no one who can threaten your brother's safety. Aoi said to Yin with a smile. After teleporting to the entrance of the spatial tunnel, Night Sorrow hurried towards the Nether Abyss. The 9 Underworld Monarch flew towards the nearest city after leaving the Nether Abyss. She needed to cultivate as well as live. Recently, she had been lacking in resources, so she needed to make up for it. Night Sorrow's soul clone followed behind. It had to be said that the 9 Underworld Monarch's cultivation had risen very quickly. She had already become a 2-star Holy King. The main reason was because she had been stuck at a bottleneck in the past. She had accumulated a lot of experience just like how Wu Lingfei had quickly become a 2-star Holy King. If she was a 1-star Holy King, Night Sorrow's clone would have killed her. But she was a 2-star Holy King. Night Sorrow had to be careful. If she ran back to the Nether Abyss, then his plan to kill her would fail. After all, there was a difference between the main body and the clone. In addition, Night Sorrow had to make sure nothing went wrong. When the 9 Underworld Monarch got some daily necessities from the nearest city and hurried towards the Nether Abyss, Night Sorrow's main body met up with his clone. Night Sorrow's main body flickered and blocked the 9 Underworld Monarch's path with his reincarnation spear. His soul clone stood to the side. When his cultivation was not as high as the 9 Underworld Monarch's, Night Sorrow dared to fight. Now that his cultivation had surpassed the 9 Underworld Monarch's, he did not need to use his clone. Late 2-star Holy King? Impossible. The 9 Underworld Monarch was astonished when she saw Night Sorrow's cultivation. She could not believe her eyes. Nothing is impossible. Back then, I was able to fight you even before I reached the Saint King realm. Now that I am a 2-star Saint King, you are even less of a match for me, Night Sorrow said. You really won't go away. Is it not enough that we won the war? Do you want to kill us all? Hades 9 waved the scimitar in his hand. I'm not trying to kill all of you. I'm not a murderous person. I just want to solve the problem between the two worlds once and for all, and you're the only stumbling block, Night Sorrow said. You're still a bloodthirsty person. Don't you know how many Nether Realm beings you've killed? The Nine Abyss King roared. Our nine-domain world has records that the Nether Realm has attacked the nine-domain world more than once or twice. This time, it was you who sent the Nether beasts into the nine-domain world first. It was you who wanted to keep attacking, so I have to end this once and for all. Night Sorrow looked at Nine Hades King and said, Then let's fight. If you can kill this king, no one will be able to stop you. The Nine Abyss King's golden skirt trembled, and energy gathered on the scimitar in her hand. I don't have to kill you. Just submit. As long as you submit, you'll still be the king of the nine-domain world, said Night Sorrow after thinking for a moment. Impossible. This king would rather die in battle. This king can't bow. Nine Abyss King charged at Night Sorrow. His scimitar was covered in black and red flames. That was the fusion of death energy and the peak of fire energy. You still have value. Your value is that you can lead the Nether Realm. If you don't submit, then once I'm done with you, I'll slaughter all the Nether Realm and unify the Nether Realm. Night Sorrow waved his spear, forcing Nine Abyss King back. Nine Abyss King discovered that the gap between her and Night Sorrow was very big. Night Sorrow had easily forced her back with a single spear strike. She wanted both of them to suffer, but it was impossible for her to take him down with her. Why Official V Edition First Release War is War? Is there a need to exterminate a race? Nine Abyss King roared angrily. She continued to attack. She was very angry. Although she wasn't afraid of death, she didn't want to see the Nether race being exterminated. If I can't rule, then I can only exterminate. I'm the nine-domain world's commander. I must think for the nine-domain world. I'll kill anyone who threatens the nine-domain world. Night Sorrow's body flashed as he spear after spear, forcing Nine Abyss King back. Nine Abyss King's internal organs were shaken, and a dark red color appeared at the corner of her mouth. Night Sorrow's true chi cultivation was already higher than Nine Abyss King's. In addition, his 10,000 Paths treasured book cultivation was also at the late stage of the 2-star Sage realm. This wasn't a 1+1 comparison. He could completely crush Nine Abyss King. In addition, Night Sorrow's reincarnation spear also had an attack amplification effect. Nine Abyss King had no chance of resisting. Nine Abyss King didn't say anything after being pointed out by Night Sorrow. She just continued to attack Night Sorrow with her blade. Night Sorrow didn't directly use his killing move because he felt that Nine Abyss King still had some value. It would be best if she could submit. Whether it was to rule the Nether Realm or in terms of battle strength, she would be a great help. Nine Abyss King's true chi was unstable from the continuous attacks. Night Sorrow's reincarnation spear vibrated and knocked away Nine Abyss King's scimitar. He then whipped Nine Abyss King's shoulder and broke her collarbone. Nine Abyss King was forced to kneel on the ground. Don't kill yourself yet. Let me finish speaking first. You can choose for yourself. Night Sorrow's reincarnation spear pressed down on Nine Abyss King's shoulder as she looked at him, who was about to self-destruct. Speak. Nine Abyss King glared hatefully at Night Sorrow. If you submit, the Nether Realm will still be ruled by you. All you need to do is obey orders. The Nether race and other races can still exist. Aside from obeying orders, there is nothing else. If you self-destruct, then the Nether Realm, which has almost no saints, is meaningless to the Nine Regions world. We can only slaughter everyone and take the territory, Night Sorrow said. Why should I believe you? Nine Abyss King's eyes were still cold. How about this? I'll give you a chance. A few years ago, the Nine Regions world had a realm war with the Profound Mysteries realm. Do you want to know the current situation of the cultivators in the Profound Mysteries realm? Swear on your world's origin that you will wait for me at the spatial passage in 3 months. I'll let you go to the Profound Mysteries realm and take a look. Also, you are not allowed to harm anything in the Profound Mysteries realm, Night Sorrow said. Humph. Nine Abyss King forcibly endured Night Sorrow's spear and stood up. Then he swore on his world's origin that he would wait for Night Sorrow at the spatial passage in 3 months. Looking at Nine Abyss King, Night Sorrow brought him through the spatial passage and sent him to the Profound Mysteries realm. Then he returned to the Eastern Shen region. His 3 wives were still waiting for him. When Night Sorrow arrived at the sacred hall, Sikong Chuyu and the others were anxiously waiting for him. Did something happen? Yang Lei walked over to Night Sorrow and examined him. Night Sorrow's robes were stained with blood. When Night Sorrow had fought Nine Abyss King, he hadn't used a protective barrier. So when Nine Abyss King's collarbone had been broken, The blood had splashed onto Night Sorrow's body. Nothing happened. I just saw 9 Abyss King, so I took care of it, said Night Sorrow. Chapter 10. Chapter 938. Underworld Monarch 9. Did you go and fight him? What happened? Yang Lei asked anxiously. She needs 3 months to choose whether to submit or die. I sent her to the Profound Mysteries realm to take a look. Night Sorrow explained what had happened in detail. It's a good thing that she's here, but she's the leader of a realm and a Saint King. You have to be careful. She might try to play tricks on you. Xianxia reminded Night Sorrow. I've thought about it. There won't be any problems. Besides, the Profound Sky World's calamity is coming. It's good for us to have another Saint King to help us. It's rare to have such an expert. Night Sorrow explained why he hadn't killed 9 Pluto directly. 9 Pluto was far stronger than a peak saint. Night Sorrow felt that if she was given time, she could still improve a lot. She could play a big role in the calamity. Xianxia and the other two nodded. They knew that Night Sorrow's decision was right. Besides, 9 Pluto's existence was very important to the Nether Realm's rule. Let's not talk about this for now. We'll tell the others when there's a result. Night Sorrow told the 3 girls. Night Sorrow went to the Medicine Valley to visit his master. After seeing his senior brother who was guarding the Medicine Valley, he returned to the city in the sky. He told Night Sorrow that he had something to do in 3 months and called for him at the Time and Space Pagoda 2 days in advance. Night Sorrow entered the Time and Space Pagoda and began to cultivate. The days of cultivation were boring, but Night Sorrow was still in high spirits because he could feel his cultivation increasing. Night Sorrow used a year to raise his cultivation to the peak of the 2-star Saint Realm. The Myriad Dao treasured tome also followed at the same time. Night Sorrow stayed with the girls on the 61st floor of the Time and Space Pagoda for a few days before returning to the Time and Space Pagoda. He then raised his cultivation to the 3-star Saint King Realm and stabilized it. After stabilizing his cultivation base, Night Sorrow continued to increase his cultivation base. Because his cultivation base had been very stable in the chaotic streams of space, there were no drawbacks. This cultivation lasted for 1.5 years. Yiling Lan had to shout from outside the space-time treasure pagoda. Only then did Yiling Lan come out of seclusion on Night Sorrow. He knew that it was time to meet the 9 Underworld Monarch. After that, Night Sorrow packed up and rushed towards the Netherworld's passageway. At this moment, the 9 Dark Monarch was meditating outside the 1000 derivation killing array. She was feeling very complicated. She hoped that Night Sorrow would forget the time, and then her vow would be invalid. If the vow was invalid, she could leave and find a place to hide. In fact, there was one thing that 9 Dark King did not know. With the array, she could not return to the Nether Realm, and she could not hide in the Supreme River space. At the same time, she could not enter the 9-domain world or the Profound Mysteries realm. Even if she did enter, it would be useless. They were Night Sorrow's territory, and she had nowhere to hide. As the ruler of the 9-domain world, Night Sorrow's control over the 9-domain world and its affiliated space was extremely strong. It would be easy for him to find the 9 Dark King. In addition, the 9 Dark King saw that the Profound Mysteries realm was very stable. Everything was fine. It did not look like a world that had been defeated. She also clearly knew that the Profound Mysteries realm had been beaten to a pulp back then. In this situation, the 9 Dark King was in a dilemma. She had her pride and dignity and she did not want to submit. If she did not submit, then she knew that Night Sorrow would definitely carry out a massacre in the Nether Realm. This was not something she wanted to see. She did not want to become a sinner. Just as the 9 Dark King was thinking, the white-robed Night Sorrow passed through the 1000 derivation killing array and walked out of the spatial passageway. Night Sorrow was directly teleported to the spatial passageway, while the 9 Dark King flew over from the Medicine Valley. The meditating 9 Dark King stood up. When she saw that Night Sorrow was a 3-star holy king, her eyes were filled with disbelief. It had only been 3 months since they last saw each other, and Night Sorrow's cultivation had increased again. Night Sorrow took out a jar of wine and threw it to the 9 Dark King. He opened his own jar and took a sip. Free of charge. Look at little Y, say Z, I don't dare to drink. If you don't submit, then this wine is a farewell wine. If you submit, then it will be a celebratory wine. Night Sorrow looked at the hesitant 9 Dark King and said. After sizing up Night Sorrow, the 9 Dark King opened the jar and drank 2 mouthfuls of wine. War brings destruction and pain. This is unavoidable. The only thing that can be avoided is to not have war. Your submission is actually a blessing for the Nether Realm. It is also atonement for you because the current state of the Nether Realm was caused by the wrong decision of the Nether Realm. You have the responsibility to rebuild the nether realm and restore it, Night Sorrow said. Then isn't that the same as being enslaved by the nine-domain world? Said the Nine Dark King coldly. Think before you say that. Why would I want you to go to the Profound Mysteries realm? Don't you know that the nine-domain world has enslaved the Profound Mysteries realm and taken away what they have? The reason I want you to submit is to avoid future war. What are you thinking? Night Sorrow's aura fluctuated. He was losing his patience. This king's submission means the nether realm's submission. How much can you do? Asked the Nine Dark King to Night Sorrow. The nether realm will still be under your rule. But when I need to fight, the nether realm will have to cooperate unconditionally. You can't have the slightest thought of harming the nine-domain world, said Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow didn't really have any thoughts of conquering the nether realm. That was because the nether realm's situation wasn't suitable for the nine-domain world's people to rule and develop. If the nether realm could submit and become a subsidiary world, that would be enough for Night Sorrow. The Nine Dark King sank into deep thought. Night Sorrow's conditions weren't too harsh. Between her own death, the slaughter of the nether realm, and the submission of the nether realm, she knew which was more important. She just wasn't willing to submit. The nether realm can submit under my command, but I'll be the only one fighting for you. I can't lead the other nether realm people to their deaths. The nether realm no longer has any high-level cultivators. If we fight again, it'll be no different from the extermination of our race, said the Nine Dark King after a moment of hesitation. Night Sorrow thought for a moment. Then swear a heavenly Tao oath. I, Nine Dark King Zhu will submit to Night Sorrow from today onwards. I will listen to Night Sorrow's orders and lead the nether realm to not harm the nine-domain world. The Nine Dark King or Zhu swore a heavenly Tao oath. It was similar to Night Sorrow's request. The only difference was that on the basis of not harming the nine-domain world, she would personally submit to Night Sorrow. Since you're so careful, I won't bicker with you. How long will it take for you to reorganize the nether realm? Asked Night Sorrow. I'll arrange for people to deal with it. I still need to cultivate. It will take some time for the soul avatar to be born. Once the avatar is born, the main body will be at your disposal. Remember your promise to not harm the nether realm, said the Nine Dark King. I'll give you 10 years. After 10 years, crush my messaging crystal. I'll send you back to the nether realm right now. After saying that, Night Sorrow waved his sleeve and brought the Nine Dark King into the nether realm. He then brought the Nine Dark King through the Great Array. All right, I, Zhu admit defeat. I'll follow the heavenly Tao oath. After saying that, Zhu left the spatial passage. Night Sorrow was very happy. This could be considered as solving a big problem. Chapter 939. Night Sorrow went to the Saint Hall and called Long Xianxing, the Four Peak Saints, as well as Tai Shu Yen, Lu Qin, and Jun Xuanji. He then told them about how he had dealt with the Nine Dark King. Very good. That means the nether realm won't be a hidden danger, Long Xianxing said. It's good for now, but there are still some drawbacks. I'll take a look at it later. Night Sorrow felt that he had to control the nether realm's saints, so he had to communicate with the Nine Dark King later. You can deal with it as you see fit. Only you can subdue the Nine Dark King, no one else can, Long Xianxing nodded. Night Sorrow left the eastern Xian region and returned to the city in the sky to cultivate in seclusion. What he needed now was time to increase his cultivation. The Nine Regions' origins had told Yishang that the three great Saint Kings had all been high-level Saint Kings back then. Even so, they had still lost. Although Yishang was now the ruler of the Nine Regions world, his cultivation level had to be raised to a high-level Saint King, or perhaps a peak Saint King to have a greater chance. Only then would he be able to crush the cultivators of the profound sky world who entered the Nine Regions world. Night Sorrow was also working towards this goal. The stronger he was, the more confident he would be. Time passed slowly. Night Sorrow's cultivation increased rapidly, but it was not weak at all. Every time he increased his cultivation, Night Sorrow would go to Clear Sky City, pass through the spatial barrier, and enter the deep spatial turbulence to cultivate. Every time he came, Night Sorrow would bring the space-time pagoda with him so that the people inside could continue to cultivate, and he would not delay his recovery. 5 years had passed in the real world, and Night Sorrow had cultivated for more than 60 years. Normally, with the space-time pagoda's 20x time acceleration, Night Sorrow could cultivate for 100 years. However, almost half of the time was used by Night Sorrow to stabilize his cultivation. After sensing his cultivation that had just broken through to 5-star Holy King, Yishang stopped fighting and continued to charge forward. He needed to calm his state of mind. All these years, he had been paying attention to stabilizing his cultivation and making it solid. However, being in a state of high tension all the time was not suitable for his state of mind. After coming out of seclusion, Night Sorrow also brought out everyone from the space-time pagoda. Looking at the group of people who were full of energy, Night Sorrow was very satisfied. Xuexi was a 9-star saint, Wu Lingfei was also a star saint. Yi Wuyo and Yu Qing were also middle-level saints. Saints improved their cultivation quickly mainly because they could enjoy the acceleration of time in the space-time pagoda after entering the saint stage. Tai Shuyan and Jun Xuanji's cultivation improved rapidly as well. The two of them were slightly slower than Night Sorrow's parents, but they were also 3-star saints. Yi Linghuan was also a middle-level saint, and his cultivation was slightly higher than Yi Wuyo and his wife. Other than Ma Zhuang, Tang Tian and Chu Ning, the rest of the god-slaying team's cultivation improved rapidly as well. After all, they could not use the dragon spirit pill before entering the saint stage. However, Ma Zhuang and the other two were also at the peak of the 5th stage. As for the dragon spirit pill, Night Sorrow had refined some using the blood of the 4-clawed silver dragon. Therefore he still had a lot of dragon spirit pills in reserve. We've been cultivating intensely for a while. Everyone needs to rest. God-slaying team, go take a walk in the holy hall and guide the students there. Yishan looked at Liang Yu, Yun Huang and the others who were already high-level venerables and said, "Okay, then we'll take a walk." Xueling nodded. "You are not allowed to come back for 2 years. You have to stabilize your cultivation and stabilize your mental states," Night Sorrow said to the group of people again. The members of the god-slaying team bowed to Night Sorrow and left. However, Night Sorrow's 3 fiancés stayed behind. The family needed to gather. They don't need that long to stabilize their cultivation, right? Jun Xuanji asked. They don't have the opportunity to come into contact with the laws at the moment, so they should stabilize their cultivation properly. Otherwise, if they rush to improve their cultivation, they will still be stuck at the bottleneck. Therefore, there's not much point in quickly improving their cultivation. Night Sorrow explained the reason for his arrangement. After hearing Night Sorrow's words, everyone nodded. Night Sorrow's arrangement was very reasonable. Night Sorrow brought the rest of the people back to the mansion. Then the group of women went to prepare food and wine. "Son, what's your cultivation now?" Yi Wuyo asked. Yi Linghuan also looked at Night Sorrow. No one could see Night Sorrow's cultivation clearly, so they were very curious. "I just became a 5-star Saint King. I need to stabilize my cultivation," Night Sorrow said after thinking for a moment. 5-star Saint King is so fast. It's only been a few years, Yi Linghuan sighed. Even if you face the great massacre of 10,000 years ago, you still have the confidence, Yi Wuyo said with a smile. It's not enough. Back then, the 3 Saint Kings were high-level Saint Kings, but they couldn't withstand the enemy's attacks. Although I'm the Lord of the 9 regions world, I still have the confidence to have a higher cultivation, Night Sorrow said. Buff. Don't be anxious. You've only been cultivating for a short period of time. There's enough time, Yi Linghuan looked at Night Sorrow and expressed his opinion. Night Sorrow smiled and nodded. Actually, he felt that there was enough time. 100 years was only about 10 years now. This was also the reason why he came out to relax. Everyone ate happily during the banquet. Night Sorrow was also very happy. Then he took his 3 wives to the lake. Night Sorrow lay on the deck chair on the wooden boat and looked at the clouds in the sky. Are you a little tired? Sikong Chiyu came to Night Sorrow's side and massaged Night Sorrow's shoulders. A little. I've been a little nervous during these few years of cultivation. I need to relax a little, Night Sorrow said as he grabbed Sikong Chiyu's hand. Come, the tea is ready, Aoi called out. Drinking tea and chatting was Night Sorrow's most comfortable time. After resting for 2 days, we'll go to the Holy Hall. Now that the heaven-sealing Great Hall can open, anyone who wants to get a title can go. I forgot to tell everyone today, Night Sorrow said after drinking a cup of tea. Then we'll go after resting for 2 days. Are you going to get a Holy King title? Yang Lei looked at Night Sorrow and asked. Yes, but I still need to stabilize my cultivation. There's no rush. I don't want to fail, Night Sorrow said with a smile. They sailed the boat on the lake and went with the flow. After resting for 2 days, Yi Shang brought his 3 wives and Xuexi to the Saint Hall. At this time the Holy Hall was very lively. Many people from the commander's residence were here, including Long Xianxing and the other peak saints. Commander, you're here. Seeing Yi Shang, everyone greeted him. Ever since Night Sorrow had taken control of the 9 regions world, the 9 regions world had entered a period of rapid development. So no matter who it was, they were all very respectful to Night Sorrow. Senior Long Xianxing, Senior Xian Wenxiu, your realms are about the same. Night Sorrow was a bit surprised to see the two of them. Relax. Relax, relax. We also need to break through. We can't let you shoulder everything alone. We can't even see through your current cultivation base. At the very least, you're a 4-star holy king. You're really too fast. Perhaps that's why you're an eternal genius, or perhaps you're blessed by karmic luck, said Long Xianxia emotionally. Sikong Chiyu said. Chapter 940. There's no other way. We lack time now. If I don't work hard, we won't be able to survive the next 10,000 years of slaughter, said Night Sorrow. Everyone nodded. Capable people had more work to do. Yishang was now the strongest person in the 9-domain world camp, so the pressure was on him. Then Night Sorrow talked about the certification and asked Taishu Yen to organize it. Then Night Sorrow brought everyone along. Taishu Yen nodded and went to arrange for people to come. Of course, the main priority was the people from the Commander-in-Chief's residence. She also notified the Venerable from the Medicine Valley. Night Sorrow stayed in the Saint Hall and accompanied a group of Saint Hall children to practice their spear techniques. In fact, the first batch of Saint Hall members had all become youths. Their cultivations had all reached the 4th rank and some had already reached the 5th rank. However, the hundreds of new members were still very young. Cultivating with Night Sorrow was the happiest day for the Saint Hall members. In their eyes, Night Sorrow was their parent, their most respected uncle and elder. After practicing his spear art for a while, Yi Shang led the Templars' men to the tavern in Dongshan City. After eating and drinking with a group of young men and young ladies, he brought his 3 wives and Xuexi to Qingxing Cottage. Seeing Night Sorrow return, Ning Qingfeng and his wife were very happy. At this time, Night Sorrow was the supreme figure of the 9 regions world. It was not easy to see him, let alone live under the same roof. After relaxing for 2 days, Night Sorrow gathered the people who were going to be certified and teleported to Vast Sea City. Night Sorrow took out a flying ship and brought a group of people to Vast Sky City. Through the 1000 derivation Grand Array and the 9 regions barrier, they arrived in front of the Heaven Sealing Hall. He didn't use a teleportation formation because he didn't want others to casually enter the Heaven Sealing Hall. That was an unstable factor. The titled Battle Pet Warrior certification only has a chance of passing. It's very difficult, so don't worry about whether you can pass or not. Now let's go in, Night Sorrow said to the dozens of people who had come to participate in the certification. He didn't want those who failed to feel sad. Following which, a group of people entered the Heaven Sealing Great Hall one after another. Night Sorrow took out a jar of wine and drank by himself as he waited. Night Sorrow did not have high hopes for the brothers of the God-slaying squad who had come. This was because the God-slaying squad was strong in group battles. Their individual combat strength could only be considered outstanding, but not outstanding. It would be too difficult for them to obtain a title. He did not object because he did not want to crush the confidence of his brothers. However, he still had high hopes for Guanyi and Qingzhen. Both of them had high attributes and they valued combat, so they had a high chance of winning. 2 hours later, people came out one after another. Just as Night Sorrow had estimated, less than half of the dozens of people who came this time had passed. Only a third had passed. Many of them had suffered a blow, but there was nothing that could be done about it. Night Sorrow led everyone back to the sacred hall. Night Sorrow calmed his mind. He stayed in the sacred hall to guide the child's cultivation. Yin Yanxiao, Ning Yun, and July were all very close to Night Sorrow. If they had any requests, Night Sorrow would satisfy them. Night Sorrow also frequently went to see Xinhuan and the child. When Night Sorrow visited again, the child looked seriously at Night Sorrow. I remember some things. You remember everything? Night Sorrow asked. Yes, I remember now. My surname is Yi and I'm Yi Qianhua. I'll tell my family later. My surname won't change. Of course, they're also my parents, Yi Qianhua said, his eyes filled with memories. Then I'll leave it to you. If you need me to do anything, just let me know, Night Sorrow said. Yes, after I finish talking with them, I'll go to the Sea of Night Moon. Can you send me there? Yi Qianhua looked at Night Sorrow. All right, I'll stay in the sacred hall during this time. Night Sorrow nodded. As for how Yi Qianhua would talk with his parents, Night Sorrow didn't care. He believed that things would have a happy ending. Night Sorrow and his 3 wives stayed in the sacred hall during the day and returned to the Pure Heart courtyard at night. Xuexi was also with them. Sikong Chuyu and the other 2 women were pulling her along. The relationship between the 4 women was very good. They also understood that Night Sorrow and Xuexi just didn't have a title. They were no different from a real couple. 2 days later, Yi Qianhua found Night Sorrow. Is it done? Night Sorrow asked. It's done. They're my parents, there's no doubt about that. But I'm Yi Qianhua, they can understand, Yi Qianhua said. This is your weapon. Night Sorrow took out Yi Qianhua's sword from his previous life and handed it over. It was the only authentic version. Everything else was a pirated version. I don't need it now. Take it. Yi Qianhua didn't take it. I use spears. You've used this sword for a long time. It's convenient for you to use. Night Sorrow didn't take back his arm. After looking at Night Sorrow for a while, Yi Qianhua put away the sword. Old ancestor, I'll send you back to the Sea of Night Moon later. Yi Xinyue, who had been silent, said. Don't call me old ancestor. That was in the past. Just treat me as an ordinary night moon. Yi Qianhua shook his head. Then Night Sorrow took out a storage ring, filled it with some spirit stones, and handed it to Yi Qianhua. Then he sent Yi Qianhua and Yi Xinyue to the transmission array before returning to the Holy Church. Night Sorrow knew that with the understanding, state of mind and experience of several lifetimes, Yi Qianhua would grow very quickly. All he needed was time. With enough time he would become a peak holy king. Moreover, Night Sorrow felt that the rules of the Nine Zones world were complete now. It was no longer the era where Yi Qianhua's Nine Zones world was not even considered a high-level world. Yi Qianhua had the opportunity to improve further. After sending Yi Qianhua away, Night Sorrow went to Qin Shen's tea house. At this time he was somewhat apologetic. Seeing Qin Shen come over, Night Sorrow cupped his hands to Qin Shen. There's no need to apologize. Qin Shen poured a cup of tea for Night Sorrow and said, I originally wanted him to live a better life. I never thought of taking him away, Night Sorrow said. I understand. If you wanted to, you would have done it long ago. In fact, no matter who he is now my child. No one can change this fact. As long as he lives well, I don't care about anything else. Besides, he still recognizes me as his father. Qin Shen nodded to Night Sorrow. I have to say your state of mind is really good. This is the life spirit liquid. It can change your physique and even repair your dantian. You can walk your own path. Night Sorrow took out more than a dozen drops of the life spirit liquid and handed it to Qin Shen. In your eyes, I have finally cultivated. Qin Shen did not stand on ceremony and directly put away the life spirit liquid. It's still early. There's still time. You can walk your own path. After saying that, Night Sorrow stood up and left the tea house. Looking at Night Sorrow's back, Qin Shen, who was originally very calm, felt a little complicated because he did not know what kind of life was his original path. Qin Shen also knew that as long as he walked the right path, Night Sorrow would only help him in the future, and it would not be the same as before. Speak. Third Watch. Chapter 941. What are you thinking about? Qianhua's surname is Night, but he's also our child. Don't think too much. Qin Shen's wife came to his side. I understand. Do you know that the commander once called me brother and chose a path full of light for me, but I destroyed it myself? Qin Shen sighed. Actually, you don't understand. He's been very concerned about us all these years. It's not just because of the child. He still has some special feelings for you. Qin Shen's wife said. Maybe you're right, but Qianhua isn't by my side. I always feel like something is missing. Qin Shen was still a little sad. Well, I'm pregnant again. Qin Shen's wife said in a low voice. Night Sorrow returned to the Saint Hall. He was very happy that Qin Shen had changed. This was good for Yi Qianhua. He would have no regrets in the future. After staying in the Saint Hall for 2 days, Night Sorrow returned to the city in the sky and set up the space-time pagoda by the lake again. This way, people who needed it could enter directly. Night Sorrow looked around with the vision of the Nine-Domain world and found that there were several small spaces near the Nine-Domain world. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow began to fly. After flying to the space barrier, Night Sorrow took a deep breath and passed through the space barrier. He entered the space turbulence and began to travel. This space was a little far from the Nine-Domain world, so it was not easy for Night Sorrow to travel there. If it was before, Night Sorrow would not dare to do this because the deep space turbulence was very scary. This was also why Night Sorrow wanted to try it once when he became a 5-star holy king. It was not that Night Sorrow wanted to take the risk, but he did not have enough spirit stones. He would not use the Holy Spirit Stone. Night Sorrow used the Rule of Nothingness and the Chi of Nothingness to protect his body. The Rule of Nothingness cut forward and traveled at the fastest speed. The space storm was too violent and he could not afford to consume it. It was less than 200 feet, but it was enough for Night Sorrow to exhaust his Chi. Night Sorrow was very satisfied that he could reach his destination. Then Night Sorrow began to look for spirit stones inside the space. He came here for spirit stones. After spending 2 months, Night Sorrow had collected all the spirit stones in the surroundings of this space. However, Night Sorrow did not find any spirit stones in the central area. Night Sorrow did not come to the central region of this space to look for spirit stones. His main purpose was to see if there were any origin stones. In reality, he found nothing. The Nine Realms origin energy told Night Sorrow that he had the Nine Realms origin energy in his body, which was rejected by the alternate dimension. The spatial origin energy had sensed it a long time ago and had hidden itself, making it impossible to find. Night Sorrow thought for a moment and nodded. After experiencing some things, he was not an idiot. He was able to obtain the nothingness origin energy because he had the nothingness attribute. Moreover, he was able to smoothly enter the nothingness space because the two worlds were very close to each other. Not counting the high-grade spirit stones, Night Sorrow had obtained close to 3,000 top-grade spirit stones. He was very satisfied with this result, and it would last him for a long time. However, he knew that this was because he had the 9 domain sources, which allowed him to sense spirit stones in a large area. If he had relied on himself, he would not have had such an effect. After drinking 2 mouthfuls of wine, Night Sorrow returned to the space barrier. He tore open the space and after another struggle returned to the Nine Realms world. After returning to the city in the sky, Night Sorrow rested with his family for a few days. Then he began to cultivate intensely. As for when the others would return, he did not worry about it. Time passed by as Night Sorrow cultivated diligently. When he felt that his cultivation was increasing quickly, Night Sorrow would take the Spacetime Pagoda to the bottom of Clear Sky City's Clear Sky Mountain and cultivate in the turbulent space. As for those who did not enter the Spacetime Pagoda or could not use the Spacetime Pagoda to cultivate under any circumstances, Night Sorrow did not care. Right now, the most important thing was to increase his cultivation. Besides, the Spacetime Pagoda was his saint artifact, so no one would say anything. When Night Sorrow cultivated to the 6-star Saint King realm, another 5 years had passed in the real world. Night Sorrow cultivated for another few decades before he managed to increase his cultivation by 1 level. The main reason was that the Saint King realm required too much energy to cultivate by 1 level. In addition, Night Sorrow had consumed more than half of his life spirit fluid. This made his heart ache, but there was nothing he could do about it. More nu v the fastest, this time Night Sorrow came out of seclusion for no other reason than the time he had agreed with Dark King Nine. He wanted to take a look. If Dark King Nine had solved some of the problems in the Nether Realm, he would bring Dark King Nine to the Spacetime Pagoda to cultivate. Of course, the two of them still had to make some agreements. Night Sorrow arrived in the Nether Realm. He flew to the nearest city and teleported to Nether City. When he arrived in front of Nether City, Night Sorrow had just stood there for a while when Dark King Nine appeared. Her senses as a powerhouse let her know that Night Sorrow had arrived. She remembered Night Sorrow's aura. Dark King Nine invited Night Sorrow into the main hall of the City Lord's mansion. Her eyes were fixed on Night Sorrow because the last time they met, Night Sorrow was only a 3-star Saint King. Now she could no longer see Night Sorrow's cultivation. She was a 2-star Saint King, so any cultivation below a 5-star Saint King could not be hidden from her. A technique to hide your cultivation? Dark King Nine asked Night Sorrow. No. As he spoke, Night Sorrow released all of his aura. Dark King Nine's expression changed because Night Sorrow's aura was too powerful. It was like a sun that no one could look directly at. Then Night Sorrow withdrew his cultivation and looked at Dark King Nine. At least a 6-star saint. I don't blame you for losing. My soul clone will be completed in half a month. It can handle things here, said Dark King Nine. She had no intention of resisting now. There's something else that I didn't make clear last time. All saints in the Nether Realm must swear an oath to the heavenly Tao. They must not have any thoughts of rebelling against the 9-domain world. Otherwise I will kill them all, said Night Sorrow. Alright, I'll make arrangements for that. As long as you don't come in and kill, it's fine. Dark King Nine nodded. She understood Night Sorrow's request because it was an unstable factor. My soul clone will be here. There will also be peak saints patrolling. If the saints don't swear an oath to the heavenly Tao, we will deal with them. As for how to make arrangements, I'll arrange a few people to come over later. You can communicate with them, said Night Sorrow. Dark King Nine nodded. She knew that with Night Sorrow's cultivation, the Nether Realm would not be able to resist. Moreover, she had sworn an oath to the heavenly Tao. Even if she didn't, Night Sorrow could kill her in an instant. Following this, Night Sorrow returned to the 9-domain world. He called the people from the commander's residence and told them about the situation in the Nether Realm. The result of their discussion was that Shang Luo and Heavenly Underworld Saint would take turns to guard the Nether Realm. Lu Qin and Jun Xuanji would also take turns to register the new saints in the Nether Realm. They did not need to care about those who had sworn an oath to the heavenly Tao. If anyone escaped, they would kill them. Zhao Fu brought the 4 of them to Nether City and introduced them to Dark King Nine. Dark King Nine then told her current assistant, a high-level saint, to take care of this. Dark King Nine, I plan to go to the Nether Abyss, Night Sorrow said. That won't do. It's true that I've submitted, but you can't go and destroy the source of the Nether Realm. Dark King Nine was a bit agitated. I'm not going for the source. I need other cultivation resources, Night Sorrow said. Speak. Fourth Watch. Chapter 942. Night Sorrow needed the life spirit elixir to cultivate the myriad Dao Tome. He didn't have much life spirit elixir left, so he needed to get more. But a place with death essence had a high chance of having life essence. Even if there wasn't any life essence, there would still be life spirit elixir. Seeing that Nine Underworld King Zhu Jiyun was a bit agitated, Night Sorrow told him the reason. If you promise not to harm the Nether Realm's essence, I can take you there, said Zhu Jiyun after hearing Night Sorrow's words. Alright, I definitely won't harm the Nether Realm's essence. Also, take care of it and come with me. Your cultivation base isn't high enough. You need to quickly grow stronger, said Night Sorrow. Can I grow as fast as you? Zhu Jiyun looked at Night Sorrow. Genuine Q, even if it's a bit slower, it won't be much slower. Alright, let's go to the Nether Abyss first. I don't even know if I can go down, said Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow and Nine Underworld King Zhu Jiyun arrived at the Nether Abyss. How much do you know about the Nether Abyss? Asked Night Sorrow as he looked at the Nether Abyss. I can confirm that the Nether Realm's essence is down there. But because the death energy is too berserk, I can't get close. I feel like I'm still very far away, said Zhu Jiyun to Night Sorrow. Then lead the way. We'll head down. Also, don't resist my soul power. If you consume too much energy, I'll bring you to a special spatial treasure to recover, Yishan said, looking at Zhu Jiyun. Night Sorrow had long since wanted to go to the Nether Abyss to find life spirit elixir. That was why he had brought the spacetime pagoda with him. Take it easy. If you go too far, the Nether Realm's origin won't come back. It will hurt both the Nether Realm and the Nether Realm. Yishang threw 2 jade jars to Zhu Jiyun. When they left the spacetime pagoda, Night Sorrow didn't hold back and also filled 2 jars with death spirit elixir for Zhu Jiyun. This made Zhu Jiyun a little unhappy because Night Sorrow did not have the death attribute. After that, Night Sorrow flew up with Zhu Jiyun. After flying for a while, Night Sorrow felt that the Nether Realm's origin had returned to the same place. Above the Nether Dark Abyss, Zhu Jiyun looked at Night Sorrow and said, You don't have the death attribute. What's the use of the death spirit liquid? You're too greedy. I don't need it, but I have brothers who do. I didn't harm the Netherworld origin either. It's gone back now. Night Sorrow was in a great mood. Because the Nether Realm source was mature and had existed for many years, there was also a lot of life essence accompanying it. It was more than what Night Sorrow had obtained in the past. Chapter 943. The amount of life spirit liquid that Night Sorrow had collected was more than the sum of all the life spirit liquid he had collected. Even if you cultivated in that spatial treasure, the spiritual energy there shouldn't have increased your cultivation so quickly, right? Zhu Jiyun asked. You only know part of it. The most important thing is that when I cultivate in there, time is 20 times faster. 20 years of cultivation is equivalent to 1 year outside. Is that okay? Night Sorrow asked. 20 times faster? Zhu Jiyun looked at Night Sorrow in surprise. Yes, but the consumption of spiritual stones is shocking. If you want to enjoy 20 times faster, bring your own spiritual stones, Night Sorrow said. Okay. I have accumulated spiritual stones for many years. Back then, before I became a sage king, they were all accumulated and not consumed, Zhu Jiyun said to Night Sorrow. 1 year faster is equivalent to 1 year in the real world. For you to cultivate for 20 years, you will need 300 top-grade spiritual stones, Night Sorrow said. Are you robbing me? Do I only have 300 top-grade spiritual stones? That's only enough for 1 year? Zhu Jiyun said agitatedly. That's true. But I am also cultivating, so I'll take half of it. Give me how many top-grade spiritual stones you have, Night Sorrow said to Zhu Jiyun. I have less than 500. Zhu Jiyun looked at Night Sorrow and hesitated for a moment before saying, Okay, just throw them on the ground. When I cultivate, I will bring you along, Night Sorrow said. Zhu Jiyun threw 500 top-grade spiritual stones on the ground. It was almost all of her wealth. Your horns are a little weird. They are really ugly, Night Sorrow said after taking the spiritual stones. What do you know? The horns of the netherworld race are a symbol of their cultivation achievements. It is also an honor. The bigger the horns, the stronger they are. Zhu Jiyun was very unhappy that Night Sorrow did not like her horns. You will follow me to the 9-domain world to cultivate. This is very unusual. But since it is the pride of the netherworld race, I will not talk about it. Night Sorrow nodded. Horns were the pride of the netherworld race. Night Sorrow would not look down on Zhu Jiyun because of this. If it's not convenient for you, I can take it back. Zhu Jiyun thought for a moment before retracting his horns into his golden hair. Alright, let's go. We'll go to the city lord's mansion to take a look. When your clone is fully formed, we'll go to the 9 regions world, Night Sorrow said. Zhu Jiyun, who had retracted her horns, had changed her temperament and aura. She was wearing a golden skirt and a half-body battle suit. She looked arrogant but not ferocious. After arriving at the city lord's mansion, Night Sorrow asked Shang Luo, heavenly underworld saint, Jun Xuanji and Lu Qin, and learned that everything had gone smoothly. Then I'll remove the formation later. That way, it'll be easier for you to travel back and forth, Night Sorrow said. This is risky. If the nether beasts from the nether realm enter the 9 regions world, it will be troublesome, Jun Xuanji said. They can't enter. The laws of the 9 regions world have been partially completed. The beings from the nether realm have no chance of entering the supreme river space in the 9 regions world. Night Sorrow said. This was an ability he had gained after the sky-sealing Great Hall and the void fiendish space merged. After that, Night Sorrow cultivated in the city lord's mansion in the nether realm. Zhu Jiyun followed Jun Xuanji and the others to handle matters. Yishang cultivated for 3 months, which was equivalent to 5 days in the real world. When he came out to get some fresh air and was hungry, Zhu Jiyun told him that her doppelganger had already reached large success. She did not need to deal with the matters here with her real body. She could cultivate with Yishang. Nodding, Night Sorrow communicated with Jun Xuanji and the others. After leaving behind a messaging crystal, Night Sorrow brought Zhu Jiyun to the spatial tunnel. Zhu Jiyun could not enter the supreme river space. However, Night Sorrow released the 9 regions world's origin energy and enveloped her to enter the supreme river space. After that, they came out of the spatial tunnel in the Medicine Valley and arrived at the 9 regions world. This is the 9 regions world. You can enter my spatial sacred treasure to cultivate. After I return, I will also enter to cultivate, Night Sorrow said, and put Zhu Jiyun into the space-time pagoda before teleporting back to the city in the sky. After meeting his parents and having tea with his 3 wives and Xue Shi, Night Sorrow placed the space-time pagoda beside the lake. This way, anyone who wanted to cultivate could enter and leave freely. After that, Night Sorrow entered the 10th level of the space-time pagoda. Seeing Night Sorrow enter, Zhu Jiyun opened her eyes. This place is indeed not bad. Continue cultivating. The time acceleration is now 20 times. Call me if you need anything. Don't cultivate too hard and cause your cultivation to become unstable, Night Sorrow reminded Zhu Jiyun. In terms of cultivation speed and cultivation, I am inferior to you. However, in terms of experience, you are inferior. After saying that, Zhu Jiyun closed her eyes and began cultivating. Night Sorrow glanced at Zhu Jiyun before sitting down to cultivate as well. He knew that Zhu Jiyun's words were unpleasant to the ears. However, it was the truth. After cultivating in the space-time pagoda for 5 years, both of them opened their eyes. If they continued to cultivate, their cultivation would become unstable. I am going out to consolidate my cultivation. What about you? Zhu Jiyun looked at Night Sorrow and asked. How are you going to consolidate your cultivation? Night Sorrow asked. I am going to cultivate my combat skills. I will exhaust my cultivation and then recover it before exhausting it again. Zhu Jiyun explained her method of consolidating her cultivation. Then there is no need to go out. Just attack me. If you exhaust your cultivation, I will exhaust my cultivation as well, Night Sorrow said to Zhu Jiyun. Don't say that I am intentionally hurting you. Zhu Jiyun took out her scimitar and slashed at Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow stood there and used his chi to protect himself. Once his chi was exhausted, he would use his innate bloodline energy to protect himself. Then he would use the myriad Dao Tomes energy to protect himself. When Zhu Jiyun had no more energy left, Night Sorrow's energy was also almost exhausted. Defending without attacking at all consumed a lot of energy. You're good. You're ruthless enough. Zhu Jiyun panted as she continued to cultivate. She had suffered a huge blow because the results of this trial showed that even if Yishang stood still, she would not be able to kill him. After the 2 of them recovered, they continued to exhaust their cultivation. After 3 months of tempering, the 2 of them felt that it was about time. They continued to cultivate. However, every once in a while, Night Sorrow would go to the Spacetime Pagoda to accompany his 3 wives and Xuexi. He would also accompany his parents. Sometimes he would even look for Wu Lingfei to drink tea. The days passed as he cultivated. What made Night Sorrow regretful was that he still did not have a child. However, there was nothing he could do about it. He could only let nature take its course. Zhu Juyun also enjoyed this feeling because the increase in her cultivation was very obvious. In the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed in the real world. Night Sorrow and Zhu Juyun's cultivation had increased a lot. After cultivating in the Spacetime Pagoda for dozens of years, Night Sorrow's cultivation was already a 6-star Saint King and was approaching 7-star Saint King. Zhu Juyun was also not far from 3-star Saint King. When he came out of the Spacetime Pagoda again, Night Sorrow received a piece of good news. Long Xianxia and Xuanhuan had both entered the Saint King realm. This was great news. Night Sorrow checked and found that no one was in seclusion to break through. He then shook the Spacetime Pagoda and returned to the top floor. Zhu Jiyun, 2 Saint Kings have appeared in our 9 regions world. There will be a celebration. You should join in and let everyone get to know each other. Only 4BY version Z, the rest are pirated versions. Speak. Chapter 944. I only acknowledge you. Although I don't want to admit it, I'm only submitting to you. It has nothing to do with anyone else, said Zhu Jiyun. I know you don't want to face some things, but no one will look down on you. They will all respect you. I promise you, said Night Sorrow. But I'm still the loser. Also, I want to know why you're treating me so courteously. Zhu Jiyun looked at Night Sorrow and asked the question that had always been in her heart. Zhu Jiyun had been thinking about this question for the past few days. Since she couldn't figure it out, she decided to ask. Night Sorrow took out a tea set and brewed a pot of tea. Because the 9 regions world will face a great calamity in a few decades. I might not be able to handle it alone, so I need your help. Also, I'm treating you so courteously because I want the underworld to be stable and there won't be any more wars in the future. Since I've submitted and enjoyed the treatment of your Spacetime Pagoda, I'll help if there's a battle. Zhu Jiyun nodded. She admired Night Sorrow's honesty. Let's go out. Don't mess around. I'll treat you as a friend, said Night Sorrow. Zhu Jiyun nodded. She could feel Night Sorrow's sincerity. After leaving the Spacetime Pagoda, Night Sorrow brought Zhu Jiyun to his residence. He then introduced her to his grandfather and parents as well as Xuexi, Wu Lingfei and his 3 wives. She was his friend. Everyone knew who Zhu Jiyun was, but since Night Sorrow introduced her as a friend, everyone treated her with respect. Grandfather went to ask just now. The arrangements for the celebration will be handled by Deputy Grand Elder and Deputy Yun Tianlong. They'll be held in Taiching City, said Yilinghuan. When? Asked Night Sorrow. Someone will inform you in 3 days, said Yilinghuan. These 3 days were relatively easy for Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow brought his 3 wives, Xuexi and Zhu Jiyun, around the 9 domains world. Zhu Jiyun was a woman of few words, but she was quite touched by the local customs. The 9 domains world was filled with warmth and warmth. This was something that the netherworld couldn't compare to. Even the netherworld at its peak couldn't compare. After arriving at the Saint Hall and greeting a few seniors, Night Sorrow brought the children of the Saint Hall to eat and drink in Dongxian City. However, no one charged them. The shop owner even laughed, which touched Zhu Jiyun even more. What's wrong? The food here doesn't suit your appetite, Night Sorrow asked when he saw that Zhu Jiyun was distracted. No, the people here are indeed simple and honest. In comparison, the people in the nether realm are more ferocious. However, they lack a sense of humanity. Zhu Jiyun did not hide his thoughts. He only spoke of his feelings. This is the world I want to protect. As long as I have the ability, I won't let this simple and honest world be hurt, said Night Sorrow. Zhu Jiyun nodded. She understood why Night Sorrow was cultivating so hard. It was because he wanted to protect. This was the power of protection. Then Night Sorrow brought them to Taiching City. He let them rest in the mansion that he rarely stayed in. Night Sorrow drank tea and pondered. What are you thinking about? Always sat opposite Night Sorrow. I'm thinking about how confident we are in surviving the great massacre that happens once every 10,000 years. I think our chances are much higher, said Night Sorrow. Yes, let nature take its course. You don't have to worry too much. Aoi looked at Night Sorrow with some heartache. Don't cultivate too hard. Take it slow. Night Sorrow looked at Aoi, who was already a high-level venerable, and said, I know. 9th junior sister, Chuyu, and I are working hard to cultivate so that we can accompany you. We might not be able to help you in battle, but when you turn back, we will always be by your side, Qingji said. I understand. Yi Shang's heart felt warm because his 3 wives were very understanding of him. They all knew what he wanted. The celebration of the 2 Saint Kings was very grand. After attending, Knight Sorrow returned to Sky City with Long Xianxing and Xianhuan. He told Shao Kong that the 2 of them could enter the 79th floor of the Spacetime Treasure Pagoda at any time. After entering the Saint King realm, one could enter the 10th floor. However, he was currently cultivating on the 10th floor, so it was not suitable for others to enter. The main reason was that he and Zhu Juyun were constantly tempering and consolidating their cultivation. It would be a bother to others. After knowing that there was a 9-fold time acceleration effect, Long Xianxing and Xianhuan were very excited. Xuanhuan still had some savings. He gave Knight Sorrow a few hundred top-grade spirit stones. Everyone knew that the Spacetime Treasure Pagoda was made of spirit stones. After that, Knight Sorrow relaxed for another 2 days. Then he entered the Spacetime Treasure Pagoda to cultivate. He planned to enter the high-level Saint King realm as soon as possible. This way his strength would increase. In the 9 regions world he would have the ability to fight against a peak Saint King. According to the 9 regions world's origin chi, when the 9 regions world's laws were perfected, it would be able to prevent anyone from entering the mysterious sky world. In other words, in the Great Massacre Calamity, the strongest opponent that Knight Sorrow would have to face was a peak saint. According to this theory, if Knight Sorrow entered the high-level Saint King realm, it would mean that he would have the ability to protect himself. Zhu Jiyun was also working very hard. Back then her cultivation was much higher than Knight Sorrow's. But now not only had Knight Sorrow caught up with her, he had even surpassed her. She could not even see his cultivation clearly. This made her a little anxious. Forever exempt FYC in less than 5 years' time, both of them had advanced. Knight Sorrow had entered the 7-star Saint King realm while Zhu Juyun was also a 3-star Saint King. After entering the 3-star Saint King realm, she still could not see Knight Sorrow's cultivation. Zhu Juyun said, High-level Saint King. Before you advanced, I had just entered the 7-star Saint King realm, Knight Sorrow said. Do you have to work so hard? Zhu Juyun asked. As for that, having more strength means more stability. The Great Massacre Calamity that occurs once every 10,000 years is very scary. It's a disaster. Saint crystals are harvested as materials. You can imagine the tragic situation. I don't want to see that kind of scene, Knight Sorrow said. At the same time he also told Zhu Juyun about the Great Massacre Calamity that occurred once every 10,000 years. There are still a few decades in the real world. Based on your current speed, you should have no problem entering the peak Saint King realm. You should be able to block it, Zhu Juyun said. If 1 expert descends, I will block 2 experts. What if there are more? So you have to work hard and cultivate as well. When the time comes, help me fight once, Knight Sorrow said. Do I have the right to say no? According to what you said, through the Wuji world we can enter the mysterious heaven world. When the time comes, can you think of a way to send me into the Wuji world? I want to take a look, Zhu Juyun said. Didn't I tell you that there are world masters there? Knight Sorrow said with a frown. I want to take a look around, Zhu Juyun said. Let's talk about it when I want to take a look around, Knight Sorrow said and continued to meditate to stabilize his cultivation. Chapter 945. Seeing that Knight Sorrow was stabilizing his cultivation, Zhu Juyun did not say anything and went to meditate to stabilize his cultivation. After stabilizing his cultivation base for a month, Knight Sorrow stood up, shook his neck and stretched his waist. The explosion that came from Knight Sorrow's body made Zhu Juyun open his eyes. What are you doing? How can you let him cultivate in peace? Zhu Juyun said as he looked at Knight Sorrow. All right, it's about time. Let's go out for a walk. After saying that, Knight Sorrow wrapped Zhu Juyun with his energy and exited the Spacetime Treasure Pagoda. I haven't thought about going out yet. Are you worried that I will surpass you if I keep cultivating? Zhu Juyun asked Knight Sorrow. You're thinking too much. Can you do it? Let's go around and have a look. After saying that, Knight Sorrow and Zhu Juyun began to teleport. First, they went to the Night Moon Dynasty's region. Then, they went to the various regions before finally arriving at the Western Nether region. This is the Western Nether region that suffered from the flames of war back then. It's not bad now, right? Actually, you can be more humane in the management of the Nether realm, Knight Sorrow said as he looked around Western Nether City. When I came here, my avatar used this method to manage things. Isn't your avatar in the Nether realm? Didn't you see it? Zhu Jiyun asked. I'm in the Nether realm, but I've been researching battle skills, movement techniques and combat skills. I didn't go to check out the situation in the Nether Realm, Night Sorrow said. Initial B. So you were just bluffing when you said that you would patrol the Nether Realm and kill saints who didn't swear an oath, Zhu Jiyun said. Night Sorrow glanced at Zhu Jiyun and said, just take care of it. Do you think I'm a murderous person? After that, Night Sorrow went to the Profound Mysteries Realm to take a look. The Profound Mysteries Realm had developed very quickly over the past decade or so. It could be said that it had returned to its previous state before the war, but it had also surpassed it. Not bad, right? With a united heart, we can overcome any obstacle, Night Sorrow said. Zhu Jiyun nodded. She knew that Night Sorrow was right. Everyone in the nine-domain world and the Profound Mysteries Realm were united. Therefore it was peaceful wherever they went. After walking around, Night Sorrow arrived at the Templar Hall. He practiced his spear arts in front of the practice field, while the members of the Templar Hall followed behind Night Sorrow. The unity of man and spear is the foundation of the unity of heaven and earth. It is also a shortcut to the realm of cultivation. Remember, man is the spear and the spear is man. It is an extension of your body. Night Sorrow demonstrated his spear art while talking about his past insights. After cultivating for a while and everyone rested, Yin Yin walked over to Night Sorrow's side and brewed a pot of tea for him. Brother, if you have time, come over more often. My companions and I miss you a lot. It's not that I don't want to come. It's just that I have a lot of things to do. I have to use this time to cultivate. How have you been? Asked Night Sorrow. Very good. Other than cultivating, we're going out to train. We often go to the Supreme River Domain and the Wasteland to train our combat strength. I've already awakened my 5th bloodline energy. Once I reach the Venerable Realm, I'll be able to use spatial tears, said Yin Yin. Ning Yun, do you have any problems? Night Sorrow nodded to Yin Yin before looking at Ning Yun. I'm fine. Everything is going very smoothly. Ning Yun nodded. What about you, Chiyue? Tell uncle if you have any problems. Night Sorrow looked at Chiyue. Thank you for your concern. I'm fine. Chiyue nodded. Although she was already an adult and a mid-5th rank cultivator, she still treated herself as the little girl from back then. She still enjoyed Night Sorrow's concern. If you have any problems, just tell uncle. Also, the first batch of children aren't young anymore. If you have someone you like and want to start a family, just tell uncle. I'll take care of it for you. Night Sorrow nodded to Chiyue. Uncle, you've worried about us quite a bit over the years. We're very grateful. Chiyue bowed slightly. Chiyue, from the day you came to the Sacred Hall, you were all my family. Night Sorrow sighed. In response to Night Sorrow, all the Sacred Hall's disciples bowed. You've all grown up. As your uncle, I'm very gratified. No matter where you go in the future, remember that the Sacred Hall is your home. Remember that uncle is your family. Night Sorrow looked at the group of children and said. Following that, Night Sorrow once again brought the group of children to Dongshan City to eat and drink. The restaurant still didn't accept money, but Night Sorrow knew that the steward of the Sacred Hall would settle the bill. Although the commoners of Dongshan City didn't mind, the Sacred Hall still had its principles. Night Sorrow brought Zhu Jiyun back to the Medicine Valley's bamboo forest peak to make tea and rest. Zhu Jiyun kept thinking. With such a group of children who respect and understand you, you do have a reason to fight for them to the end. Zhu Jiyun said. I hope the Nether Realm will be the same in the future. Night Sorrow said. Then why didn't you say that the Sacred Hall will accept children from the Nether Realm? Zhu Jiyun asked. It's not the same. The Nether Realm is different from the Profound Mysteries Realm. The Profound Mysteries Realm has submitted to the 9-domain world. When we deal with our relationship, we treat it as an alliance and give it enough respect. Because of this relationship, the Profound Mysteries Realm is equivalent to a subsidiary world of the 9-domain world. Both sides can freely pass through the spatial passageway. Night Sorrow said. The Nether Realm's current development is facing all kinds of difficulties. Can we also take the same path as the Profound Mysteries Realm? Zhu Jiyun asked. There are many problems in the process. We need the entire world to submit. Only then will the people of the Nether Realm be able to freely enter and leave the 9-domain world, Night Sorrow said. It's just a formality. The price to pay for sticking to this formality is that the Nether Realm will live a miserable and desolate life. Besides, what's the difference between submission and submission? If I submit, saints will have to swear an oath to the heavenly Tao. In fact, it's no different from being ruled by the 9-domain world, Zhu Jiyun said. Then on your clone's side, tell the upper echelons of the Nether Realm that the 9-domain world's commander's residence will draft the treaty. Then both sides will sit together and discuss it, Night Sorrow said. After resting for a night, Night Sorrow went to the commander's residence and asked Yun Tianlong to call the upper echelons of the commander's residence back. With the messaging crystal and teleportation array, the commander's residence's people gathered very quickly. Now let's talk about the Nether Realm. The Nether Realm can develop in the same way as the Profound Mysteries Realm. Now, Uncle Master, you can draft the terms of the alliance. Other than the stipulation that the Nether Beasts cannot enter the 9-domain world, everything else is the same as the Profound Mysteries Realm. Night Sorrow directly expressed his attitude. Night Sorrow's attitude was actually a decision. At this time, Night Sorrow was a high-level Saint King. Whether it was in terms of prestige or personal strength, he stood at the top of the 9-domain world. Tai Shu Yen held a pen and paper. As she communicated with everyone, she drafted the terms. Elder June, gather more people from the Profound Mysteries Realm and help rebuild the Nether Realm. Remember, restrain the Nether Beast. Night Sorrow said the last sentence to Zhu Jiyun. Speak. Chapter 946. Night Sorrow returned to Sky City after arranging for people to execute the alliance. As for the 9 regions world's people passing through the spatial tunnel, his soul avatar was there to take care of it. He didn't plan to personally deal with the alliance. Night Sorrow sailed the boat in Sky City's lake with Sikong Chuyu, Yang Lei Aoi, and Xuexi accompanying him. This guy is really good. He slept the whole afternoon, Yang Lei said as she looked at Night Sorrow, who was sleeping on the deck chair. This is returning to nature. Everything is so close to nature. If I can comprehend it, I will have touched the threshold of the Saint King realm, Xuexi said. They rested until night fell. Night Sorrow then had dinner with everyone. Just as everyone was eating, a golden light appeared in the sky. The golden light spun in the air, then fell on Night Sorrow and entered Night Sorrow's body. The light of virtue has descended. It seems that the alliance contract between the 9 regions world and the Nether Realm has been formed. Night Sorrow had the 9 region sources so he could understand it. At this time, the golden light circle behind Night Sorrow's head was very obvious. The only R version was the VZ version. Night Sorrow's main body chatted with the girls while his soul avatar stopped the operation of the array on both sides of the spatial tunnel. This way, the 9 regions world and the Nether Realm could be connected. The Supreme River space was just an extra teleportation. The Nether Realm and the 9 regions world's factions both sent people to guard the spatial tunnel, mainly to prevent low-level Nether beasts without intelligence from entering the Supreme River space and entering the 9 regions world. After dealing with the matter, Zhu Jiyun returned to Sky City. Her soul avatar was cultivating at the spatial tunnel entrance. Since the Nether Realm was fine, Night Sorrow's soul avatar returned to Sky City and returned to his main body. I've done what I needed to do. I've arranged everything. Your people can manage over there, Zhu Jiyun said. Night Sorrow nodded. He was also aware of the situation. Under Zhu Jiyun's orders, the 9-domain world's commander-in-chief's residence had taken over the management of the Nether Realm. After returning to the lakeside, Night Sorrow communicated with Shao Kong. Zhu Jiyun could freely enter and exit the spacetime pagoda, but only at the top level. Night Sorrow, can your spirit stones last? Sikong Chiyu asked. We can still hold on for a while, but we need to think of something. We can't just keep going out and not going in, Night Sorrow said. Like Night Sorrow, Zhu Jiyun had just advanced to the next realm not too long ago. Therefore they both rested outside for a period of time before going to cultivate. Night Sorrow went to the spatial worlds around the 9-domain world to look for spirit stones. This way the spacetime pagoda could operate at full speed and help everyone cultivate. He also wanted to cultivate. At this moment, Night Sorrow was not as anxious as before. He had entered the level of a high-level Saint King and already had the ability to protect himself. From now on, he just needed to slowly and steadily increase his cultivation level. Currently, he only had 2 levels of room for improvement and only a part of the time had passed. Yishang wasn't in a hurry, but the others were still nervously cultivating. However, Night Sorrow was also very bored. Everyone was anxiously cultivating, and he was the only one who came out. He was also very bored, so he walked around and collected a strand of the Nether Realm's essence. Then he also entered cultivation. In the blink of an eye, 30 years had passed in the real world. Night Sorrow casually cultivated and also reached the middle-level Saint King. After coming out of seclusion this time, Night Sorrow went to Clear Sky City to check on the situation of the array and whether the 9-domain origin was stable. This was because the 9-domain origin told Night Sorrow that the Profound Sky World and the 9-domain world were getting closer and closer to each other. The time had also been brought forward and it was within 10 years. This was also the reason why Night Sorrow came to check on the situation of Clear Sky City. Not to mention other places, this place had to be stable. Night Sorrow had also thought about whether or not to rebuild Clear Sky City. However, after discussing with the Nine-Domain Origin, he gave up on this idea. The current era was different from 10,000 years ago. 10,000 years ago, Clear Sky City was the cultural center, but it was not the core of the Nine-Domain. The Nine-Domain Origin and Clear Sky City were not in the same place. Now that Clear Sky City and the Nine-Domain core were together, if they were to rebuild Clear Sky City, it would create some unnecessary unstable factors. The powerful relationship between them was analyzed and concluded, so Night Sorrow rejected the idea of rebuilding Clear Sky City. This time, Night Sorrow came here, one was to inspect the situation and the other was to get a title, a Saint King title. In these 30 years, Night Sorrow did not quickly increase his cultivation in order to stabilize his cultivation and keep up with his state of mind. Now that he was doing very well, he planned to get a title. That way he would be able to obtain the blessing of the Nine-Domain Origin. With a very stable cultivation, Night Sorrow had no problems getting a title, and he easily passed. Golden light once again appeared all over the Nine-Domain world. Even the Profound Mysteries realm, Supreme River Domain, and Underworld realm had golden light. Something big had happened in the main world, so it naturally affected the subsidiary worlds. In the city in the sky, a young man stood outside the space-time pagoda. The immortal Saint King has already surpassed me in the past. Perhaps it's time to change the situation. This young man was none other than Xianxia. He had just entered the Saint realm and had gone through the lightning tribulation. 20 years ago, after he had entered stage 5, Night Sorrow had brought him here and had him cultivate in the space-time pagoda. With the insights, experiences, realms, and memories from his previous life, Xianxia's cultivation had not faced any bottlenecks. Because of the guidance of his soul, his new body was spatial. He did not have the talent of the Yi clan, but his true chi was spatial, so he could still use spatial cracks. At this time, Xianxia came to Xianxia's side. Xianxia Emperor is here. The commander has successfully obtained the title of Saint King. The immortal Saint King is a forbidden title. This has never happened before in the history of the Nine-Domain world. In other words, he's the most accomplished person in the Nine-Domain world, said Xianxia. Then he's a peak Saint King? Asked Xianxia in surprise. It's hard to say, but he definitely has the greatest potential. As for his specific cultivation, only he knows, said Xianxia. Then Xianxia entered the space-time pagoda to cultivate. Standing in front of the heaven-sealing palace, Night Sorrow thought for a moment and decided to go to Underworld to take a look. He hadn't gone there since he had solved the matter of the life spirit liquid. He also wanted to see how much Underworld had recovered in 30 years. After using the transportation formation under Supreme Sky City twice, Night Sorrow arrived at the entrance of the spatial passageway in the Nether Realm. At this time, Xuanhuan was in charge of guarding. Seeing Xuanhuan, Night Sorrow threw a jar of wine to her. He still remembered the scene when he had fought side by side with Xuanhuan. "Commander, how do you have time to come and take a look?" asked Xuanhuan after taking a sip. "I wanted to move after a long period of silence, so I came out for a walk." "Is everything okay?" asked Night Sorrow. "There are saints from Underworld guarding there. We're just in case." "We can activate the formation," said Xuanhuan. Night Sorrow nodded and entered the spatial passage. As soon as he came out of the spatial passage, a golden light appeared in the sky above Night Sorrow's head. It was a very bright golden light. Chapter 947. Light of Merit. Night Sorrow knew that this was the light of merit. This made him understand that at the beginning of the war, he was rejected by the origin of the Nether Realm because of the sin of killing. However, as time passed, the Nether Realm changed. Naturally, his merit was boundless. At this moment, the light of merit on Night Sorrow's body was very strong. It was equivalent to him benefiting 3 worlds. It was a great merit. After walking around the Nether Realm, Night Sorrow realized that the Nether Realm had recovered quite well. It no longer had the broken aura that was riddled with holes. Feeling that everything was fine, Night Sorrow returned to the city in the sky. He planned to continue to improve his cultivation and enter the 9-star Saint King realm. He would not be afraid of the calamity of killing that would follow him. Zhu Jiyun, who was meditating in the space-time treasure pagoda, opened his eyes. "The light of merit on your body is very strong. It is even very close to the great merit sage recorded in the ancient books. Your cultivation has improved quite well. You are not far from becoming a 5-star saint," Night Sorrow said. "I don't have any other thoughts. At least I can see your cultivation." Zhu Jiyun was very dissatisfied with the current situation. Zhu Jiyun had spent more time cultivating than Night Sorrow. However, in reality his cultivation had not caught up by much. This was because the space-time treasure pagoda was Night Sorrow's holy treasure. The amount of energy that Night Sorrow could refine was as much as he could. On the other hand, Zhu Juyun was slightly weaker. This was because a high-level Saint King needed more energy to cultivate than a mid-level Saint King. Work hard on your cultivation. Your clone is very strong. If your main body's cultivation improves, it means that both of you have improved. It is equivalent to 2 high combat powers, Night Sorrow said. Give me time. I will have no problem cultivating to the high-level Saint King realm, Zhu Juyun said. There is not much time left. About 10 years, Night Sorrow said. Then, even if the space-time treasure pagoda accelerates, I only have 200 years. Then I can become a 6-star saint. I have wasted a lot of time relaxing my state of mind. Zhu Juyun was a little annoyed. There's nothing we can do about it. Just work hard. I'm going to cultivate as well. If you want to relax, you can go out by yourself, Night Sorrow said. I want to give it a try. I will use the Death Spirit liquid to cultivate and seize the opportunity to enter the high-level Saint King realm. If we fail in the Great Massacre Calamity, the consequences will be too severe. After joining the 9 Regions World's camp, she naturally knew how dangerous the Great Massacre Calamity was. Then I'll have to trouble you a little. Because within these 10 years, Senior Long Xianxing and Senior Xuanhuan's greatest improvement would only be at the mid-level Saint King realm. As for the high-end combat strength, it would be you and me. I'm not afraid of dying in battle, but I'm really afraid of losing. Sometimes we can try again if we lose, but sometimes we won't be able to bear it if we lose. Night Sorrow said. I can understand you. Also, my clone has entered the Beast King Sea and formed a small team of Saint Nether beasts. I'll bring them over later. This way we won't be at a disadvantage in a battle between saints. Zhu Jiyun said. Alright, thank you for your trouble. Let's cultivate. Night Sorrow sat down and began to cultivate. His goal was to become a 9-star Saint King. At that time, with the help of the world's origin energy, he would be able to kill all opponents below the King realm. Long Xianxing and Xuanhuan cultivated together and also stabilized their cultivation. After Shang Luo and Heavenly Underworld Saints submitted to the Nether realm, they didn't stay in the Nether realm often. They also walked around and looked at the various situations of the world, looking for an opportunity to break through. After entering the late stage of the Star Saint King realm, Night Sorrow brought the Spacetime Treasure Pagoda to the bottom of Clear Sky Mountain and entered the spatial turbulence to stabilize his cultivation. During this period of time, Night Sorrow sealed the Spacetime Treasure Pagoda. No one could enter or leave the Spacetime Treasure Pagoda. But before coming, Night Sorrow had informed everyone that they had to leave in advance. While stabilizing his cultivation base within the violent spatial turbulence, Night Sorrow's cultivation base had also risen. What Night Sorrow had used up was the time he had spent tempering his cultivation base within the spatial turbulence. The time he had spent meditating within the pagoda of spacetime was negligible. Using 4 years in the real world, Night Sorrow pushed his cultivation to the 9-star saint realm. Zhu Jiyun, who used the Death Spirit liquid to cultivate, increased her cultivation even faster. She had already reached the peak of the 5-star saint realm. Her method of stabilizing her cultivation was the same as Night Sorrow's, but the time she could stay in the spatial turbulence was very short. Now that his cultivation had reached the 9-star saint realm, Night Sorrow decided to take a break. He would naturally cultivate and increase his cultivation as much as he could in the remaining time. Night Sorrow once again placed the Spacetime Treasure Pagoda beside the lake in the city in the sky. Then he spent time with his parents and wife. Wu Lingfei and Xueshi were both peak saints. They were both looking for opportunities and were not in the city in the sky. It was difficult for a venerable to enter the saint realm. It was even more difficult for a saint to enter the Saint King realm from the saint realm. Without a certain level of comprehension, one would be stuck here forever. Yi Linghuan, Yi Wuyo, and Yu Qing were all peak 5-star saints. This was already a very fast speed of improvement. The saints that Night Sorrow knew had their cultivation improved greatly. Xialanjun had also cultivated to the late-stage 9-star saint realm. Nangan Sheng, Zhenhai Sheng, and Black Dragon Sheng were all high-level saints. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow decided to go to the Saint Hall to take a look. He was no longer worried about the members of the God-slaying team. They were all venerables. Among them, Tianyu and Yi Mei were already peak venerables. Many of the others were high-level venerables. It could be said that Night Sorrow had enough resources to push them all the way. Even a fool could push their cultivation up. Looking at the original version, Tianyu and Yi Mei had already begun to comprehend the laws. Tianyu went to the Night Moon Sea to comprehend the laws of time in the Night Moon clan's territory. Yi Mei had cultivated to the peak of the Venerable Realm. She revealed the power of the laws of wind. This was the power of a high-level exotic beast. When he arrived at the Saint Hall, Night Sorrow discovered that the children that he had personally taught were no longer in the Saint Hall. They had all cultivated successfully and had made great achievements. Under the arrangement of Tai Shu Yen, they had set up the 9 Regions World Camp's law enforcement team. They had already patrolled all over the 9 Regions World Camp. This made Night Sorrow a little disappointed. He missed those children. Nianxiao, Ningyun, and Qiyue are all venerables. You don't have to worry anymore. They can already take care of themselves, Jun Xuanji said as he looked at Night Sorrow. Yes, they've all grown up, but I still miss them, Night Sorrow said with a sigh. You're not like the 9 Regions commander. Don't be like this. Our original intention was to let them live well. Commander, you've done it, Tai Shu Yen said. There's one more thing that I hope will be of help to you. My senior apprentice brother became a saint a few years ago. Not only did his cultivation soar, but because of the power of the laws, his killing intent is very powerful. You can try to study it, Jun Xuanji said. Actually, your senior apprentice brother is a wise man. Only King Realm cultivators can comprehend the will of heaven and earth, Night Sorrow said with a smile. I see. Jun Xuanji was a little surprised. She did not know this at all. If everything goes well, your senior apprentice brother will be a great talent, Night Sorrow said with a smile. Following this, Night Sorrow brought his wife to Chen Chen's tea house. Speak. Chapter 948. Not bad. After sitting down, Night Sorrow looked at Chen Chen who was walking over with a teapot and said, It's not just not bad, it's great. Xuanhuan came back a few days ago and stayed for 2 days before going to cultivate again. Chen Chen began to make tea as soon as he arrived. Chen Chen was a little old. He looked like a middle-aged man with a beard. After Night Sorrow gave him the life spirit liquid, he spent 3 years to recover his dantian and another 10 years to cultivate to the void inquiry stage. However, he was already a middle-aged man at that time. It's good that it's not bad. You're a good tea owner and you're even doing it yourself, Night Sorrow said with a smile. It's only because you guys are here that I came out to receive you. Didn't you see that there are a few staff here? This time it's good tea. After Chen Chen made the tea, Night Sorrow said with a smile, When I came here to drink tea before, the tea was really not very good. I just didn't want to say it. I hope you didn't disappoint me this time. Good tea. Who do I sell it to? I got this by chance from a peddler. It's recorded in the ancient books that it's called heart-cleansing tea. It's said that it can wash away the troubles and dust in one's heart. Look at it. It's very thorough, Chen Chen said. Then I have to try it. Night Sorrow took a sip with a smile. After drinking it, he did feel a refreshing feeling in his heart. It's indeed a rare good tea. Pack some for me and my wife later, Night Sorrow said with a smile. It's fine if you don't pay for the tea but you want to pack it. This is robbery, Chen Chen said with a smile, but his wife had already come over with a few packs of tea. After drinking the tea, Night Sorrow stood up, took out the bottle with more than a dozen drops of life spirit liquid, and handed it to Chen Chen's wife. I won't be so polite with you, Chen Chen said. When you have time, take sister-in-law to see Father Gu. Life is not easy, let alone being father and son. Night Sorrow, who walked to the door of the tea house, turned around and said, You still recognize me as your brother? Hearing Night Sorrow call his wife sister-in-law, Chen Chen's voice was a little choked. 10 years later. If I'm still alive 10 years later, then you're my brother. Night Sorrow then left the tea house. Yi Shan's change is truly great. It's hard to imagine, Sikong Chuyu said with some astonishment. Venerable is a big hurdle. Night. After Yi Shang left, Chen Chen looked at his wife with red eyes. Do you know that I have no friends or brothers in my life? That year when I found out that I had a sworn brother, I was so happy, so happy. But later, everything was ruined by me. I didn't think that he would acknowledge me. He said 10 years. Why did he say he would still be alive 10 years later? Is he going to do something in 10 years? Chen Chen's wife asked, puzzled. We don't understand his world. Let's ask our son when he comes back. That's the life spirit liquid. Last time you only took 2 drops. This time you'll be fine. The life spirit liquid can improve your physique and make you live longer. We can watch our son grow up smoothly. Chen Chen looked at the jade bottle in his wife's hand and said. Night Sorrow took his 3 wives back to the bamboo forest peak and lived there. He calmed his state of mind in cultivation and drank with his master and senior brothers when he had time. Now, not to mention the other peaks in the Medicine Valley, Night Sorrow's 10 senior brothers and 2 senior sisters on Taishan Peak were all venerables. Of course the strongest were Yang Lei and Aoi. Both of them were already 9th level venerables. Like Sikong Chiyu, they were comprehending the power of rules and could enter the Saint Realm at any time. More than 30 years of bitter cultivation in the Spacetime Pagoda had led to their high cultivation today. Time slowly passed. As the ruler of the 9-domain world, Yi Shang felt pressured because the profound sky world had already moved to the sky above the 9-domain world. When it reached the sky above the 9-domain world, it would be the time for the massacre to descend. Night Sorrow was worried, but he was more at ease because he had done everything he could. His cultivation had reached the middle of the 9 stars Holy King and was not far from the peak of the Holy King realm. After 2 years of self-cultivation in the Bamboo Forest Peak, Night Sorrow returned to the city in the sky. The Spacetime Pagoda was operating as usual. The towering pagoda not only relied on the energy of the spirit stones inside but also absorbed energy from itself. When Night Sorrow returned, Zhu Jiyun walked out of the Spacetime Pagoda. She was now a middle of the 6 stars Holy King and had come out to calm her state of mind. She had been cultivating crazily in the past few years. Middle of the 9 stars Holy King. I can see your cultivation now, Zhu Jiyun said as she looked at Night Sorrow. It's not long now. About 6 to 7 years. I don't know if it's enough for you, Night Sorrow said. It's about time. The Nether Beast's Holy King team has already set up camp at the spatial tunnel of the Nether Realm. They can come over whenever they need to, Zhu Jiyun said. After talking for a while, Zhu Jiyun left. She had come out to relax. No matter what kind of clansmen they are, they have a fierce and peaceful side. She is no longer the fierce 9E Nether King from before, always said. That's because R13 is capable. If he did not subdue her, she would still be the fierce Nether King, Yang Lei said. Don't enter the pagoda of time and space. Just relax outside. Also, help me inform the commander's office that all the Holy Kings must be mobilized and arranged together. The Great Massacre is targeted at Holy Kings, Night Sorrow said to Sikong Chiyu and the other 2. After giving the instructions, Night Sorrow entered the pagoda of time and space and began to cultivate. Although there was not much room for him to improve, he had not reached his limit. Look at chapter 4 of the book. After Night Sorrow went into seclusion, Sikong Chiyu and the other 2 found Yun Tianlong. After telling him Night Sorrow's intentions, they returned to the mansion in the city in the sky to continue their seclusion. They continued to comprehend the rules and prepare to break through to Holy King. After using 3 years in the real world and 60 years in the pagoda of time and space, Night Sorrow's cultivation had reached the late 9 stars Holy King. After coming out of seclusion, Night Sorrow brought the pagoda of time and space to the spatial barrier below Haotian City to consolidate his cultivation. As for the mobilization and arrangement of the troops, Night Sorrow was not worried. Someone would arrange it. At this time, the 9 regions world had already moved. Yun Tianlong found Lin Yuandao and did not hide his identity as the hall master of the assassination hall. Then he and Lin Yuandao used the information of the Tianji Tower and the assassination hall to gather all the venerables and saints. The venerables were all sent to the Central State Prefecture. Some talented seedlings, most of whom were disciples of the Holy Hall, were sent to Shuedao Heaven through the teleportation formation of the Tianji Tower. In the Great Massacre, the Holy Kings were harvested, but the venerables and geniuses were also targets to be killed. The Tianxian world would not let the 9 regions world grow. Night Sorrow used 2 years to consolidate his cultivation. Night Sorrow's cultivation stabilized, and his cultivation was not far from peak Holy King. His cultivation of the Myriad Tao Tome was slightly weaker, but he was close to the late 9 stars Golden Body realm.